Hey, Spider Nation, welcome back to another episode of Spider-Man's Tangled WebShow. In fact, it's our 100th episode of Spider-Man's Tangled WebShow. I'm Jonathan, webmaster of SpiderManFanRave.com, SpiderManFanRave.com. Go on over there. It's my own personal Spider-Man website, articles, editorials, reviews, anything Spider-related that you want, you can find over there. And tonight, for this very special episode, I'm being joined by James. What's going on, James?
Not much. Just had a pretty average day at work. Some days are good, better than others, but all in all, a pretty good week at work and stuff like that. Also just hung out with friends, stuff like that. Got some stuff planned out for my trip next month when I go to PowerModFitCon, literally like 31 days from now, so that's exciting. It's exactly 1 month delay fly-out, so yay. Can't wait for that. It's pretty awesome. Work has been really good, and honestly, I have nothing else really to say right now except happy 100, John. Where's your extra arms? This is 100 issue, and it's this Spider-Man thing. Where's your extra arms?
The pain, my sides. Oh, why now? Yes, that is, of course, a reference to the Six-Armed Spider-Man saga. But yes, it is our 100th episode. It is a big milestone for us. We very nearly did not get here like 3 different times. Like 2 or 3 different times we almost had to stop the show completely. But we've finally done it. 3 years in the making, almost. Not exactly 3 years, but almost 3 years in the making. Our 100th episode. This is actually kind of a cool moment, I actually think, because I did something for 100 episodes, and I don't know if this counts as an accomplishment, but maybe when I go into a job interview, I can put it on my resume. Hey, at least I'm committed. I did 100 episodes of one podcast.
Probably if your job falls for like radio or something like that.
Hey, I've been told
I'm good at this. I did 100 issues of a podcast where I said a lot of F words, sounded like the most geekiest nerd ever, and I told people to go screw themselves. And I had co-hosts who may or may not have said some things that we cannot stay on YouTube.
Well, details, I guess. All right, but yes. So we are at 100 episodes, and so you may notice that I'm actually wearing 2 sets of headphones right now, which I know looks really awkward.
No, it's not. They know you, John.
Just for context, I have this set of earphones is linked into my computer so that I can hear James and speak into the microphone for this podcast. But the other is linked into my iPad because that is where I'm going to be watching Spider-Man 2. Because as we promised at the end of last week's episode, the main event for this special 100th episode milestone is we'll be doing an audio commentary of the Spider-Man 2 movie, the one with Tobey Maguire, not with Andrew Garfield. Which
John, I got the wrong DVD.
It does kind of annoy me that we have to specify which Spider-Man 2 we're talking about.
Think about it. After Homecoming and its sequel comes out, we're gonna have to specify even more. Is it Spider-Man Homecoming 2? Is it ASM 2? Is it the Raimi trilogy 2?
Oh God, this is almost as bad as the comics are now. But
it's gonna be as bad as it is with the Batman movies. Like Batman, the animated movies, Batman, the serials, Batman 1966, the movie, Batman 89, Batman Returns, Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, The Dark Knight Rises, more animated films, Batman vs. Superman, and The Batman that's coming out soon.
But before we get to the audio commentary, I know that's what everyone's here for. I know that's what everyone's really excited about. But before we get to that, I just want to take a few minutes to talk about the podcast in general, because I think this is a big accomplishment. We've done 100 episodes. How many podcasts can you name that have done 100 episodes?
I can actually name quite a few, but okay.
I'm just going to ignore that because it doesn't support my argument. But still, okay.
It's still rare, because there was a time period there where most podcasts I listened to and I was on, with none of them would constitute really accuracy. We're going to make it 100 episodes. But there's like a long stretch where I go on iTunes and like half my podcast list is like, that podcast doesn't exist anymore. that podcast said it was on a hiatus, and it's been 2 years now, or whatever.
And so we just have a few topics that we want to talk about. And the first thing is, James, what are you most proud of about this podcast? Because there's a lot of about 100 episodes. We've had a lot of changes. We've done a lot of different things. But looking back on 100 episodes, what are you most proud of about what we've done with this podcast?
Just the fact that we're able to, get all our love for Spider-Man to other people. And also I'm also proud of the fact that I have all these good memories. Like, there's so many of them that when John said we're going to bring up past memories on the show, this week, I had a difficult time, not because I don't have any, but that there's so many of them. It's like, oh, I want to mention that, but I also have to mention this one, or maybe I should mention that one. Oh, I can't forget about this moment. Like, there's so many of those where when we get midway through the movie and there's something we can't talk about in the actual movie and we're going to talk about old shit, you're going to hear a lot of stories. Some of them were not even on air. Some of them were us behind the scenes just joking around, like the Zombie Thomas that me and Jan came up to one day, and then John started getting in on it, and then literally Thomas got in on it the few times we talked to Thomas, because as Thomas put it, hey, you made me a zombie. I like The Walking Dead. That's cool.
Yes, that is. There are plenty of inside jokes throughout this podcast history, both on screen and off. Some are suitable for young ears, some are not. We'll just put that out.
Zombie Thomas for Press 2016. I still got that hashtag going.
Zombie Thomas 2016. But yes. What am I most proud of this podcast? I'm most proud of the fact that this podcast has evolved and changed over time. And I think for now, at least, we've gotten it to a place of relative stability and a place of we're comfortable with how it is. And also, it's a place that's just our own. I will admit that when I started this podcast, we were influenced by various different shows, both Spider-Man shows and other random shows that no one's ever heard of that I used to listen to. And now we've just sort of like evolved off into like our own thing. And I guess it's what I'm most proud of is just the fact that we don't really have to be anyone else. We can just be ourselves. And we also don't pretend that we're like the most amazing podcast ever. We're just like, yeah, we're a Spider-Man podcast. You either like us or you don't. And you know what? We do it because we love it. That's what I'm most proud of. We do it because we love it. I think to sum all that up, we do it because we love it. I guess that's what I'm most proud of. Is like I look on our feed. We don't always have the highest views. I will admit that. We don't have the highest views like by any measurable standards. But you know what? It's good because we're glad to be doing something that we really, really enjoy week in and week out. And so I think that's just what makes me the most proud about this podcast is that we are just ourselves. We don't pretend to be anyone else, and we speak our minds. We don't pretend that we don't pretend to feel a certain way. If we think something is good, we say it's good. If we think something is terrible, we spend an hour talking about why it's so terrible. And yes, we've done that before. If this is your first episode,
of ASM, One More Day, a lot of the times, like I was re-listening to a lot of the old episodes building up to this, and I forgot about this moment where we're talking about Spider-Verse because it just got announced, and then me and Thomas somehow take over Spider-Verse, and the topic of Milan coming back as a villain. And me and Thomas just spear into another, like, One More Day bashing, friend. It's like it morphs into it. We're like, well, the other was shit, but that was at the area where JMS was being told what they're written because of movie tie-ins or, other comic tie-ins and stuff like that. Although, don't forget One More Day, and then just speared into us shitting about it for 30 minutes. So we have gotten into rants before. But just to kind of go on with what you said, John, that's kind of like the definition of creativity, because, like, nothing's original. Everybody has inspiration from something, or, not to use the term rip off, but everything has something that they got from something else. But originality is when you can take that and not instead of just copying and pasting and say done, it's when you can take that and then go with your own direction with that. Go your own way with it. That's creativity. That's originality.
And also,
that is what's normal.
And also, we don't pretend to like know everything about Spider-Man. We don't. We don't pretend to be like the all-seeing force of Spider-Man. We've gotten things wrong on this podcast.
We don't tell people that they're factually wrong if they like or dislike an issue that we like or dislike or something like that.
And like we don't pretend to be like a legit Spider-Man information source. Like we don't try to like push a narrative that says, "Oh, this is what Spider-Man is. This is what these creators are doing. Blah 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 blah. This is why this is happening. This is why this is happening." We're just
this is why this sucks. This is why this is so good because we know the character and we're the only ones that get it, and you're supposed to believe us.
Like we're
not Stan Lee. We're not Steve Ditko. We didn't create Spider-Man. We have no say in that whatsoever. We just buy the books
and
or
like
the comic books or the movies or whatever.
We won't deny that we like engage in speculation, and we won't deny that we have like strong opinions on things, but at the end of the day, we're just two guys with opinions who have no more, like, we have no more information out, like, we have no more information or knowledge than probably anyone else out there, so it's like,
yeah, just to clarify, yeah, we might say stuff like, oh, that person's acting out of character, but there's a big difference between somebody acting out of character in a comic and then us saying, well, I don't like what that writer's doing, or I don't like what that movie did because I know the character. He's my character, and it's not the way I would have done it. We're not saying that stuff. That's kind of different than when we say, oh, so-and-so shouldn't have said that. That's out of character for them.
Yeah, it's like, just, we want to stress once again, we are an opinion show. Do not take anything we say as, like, factual. Or
say that we're right-wing or left-wing because of the comments we made. Our podcast doesn't go political at all, and if it does, it's in a satire way that makes fun of everybody, not just one side.
Hell, we just endorsed a zombie for president.
That's like one of those moments we got to bring on the podcast. How people hated us for being right conservatives, and that's enough. And if anybody knows me and John personally, that is the complete opposite of how we are.
I just want to point out, the moment we brought up politics, our view count, literally, we've lost live viewers, so we should probably get off of this topic, but yes. So I am proud of the fact that we are our own podcast. That is, to sum up this 5-minute tangent, we are our own podcast, and I'm very proud of that. And that is something that at least I can take away and say, you know what? We've at least done something well. Is that we're not trying to be anybody else. We're just trying to be us. And I'm happy about that. And so the next thing is, do we have any favorite moments from the podcast? I'll start off by saying that one of my absolute favorites back in episode 38 of the Spider Nerd podcast, way back like 2 years ago. Spider Nerd podcast, episode 38. There was, to give context here, during that entire episode, we at this point we had the SpiderNerd.com website, and it had a message board on it at that point. And during the entire recording of that episode, there was a hacker who kept hacking into the message board and posting a lot of pornographic images on it. And so I was consistently having to go in and block IP addresses and delete all this stuff during the recording of the show. And James was trying to help me do this. And we were trying our best to keep it off of the air. And we also had like 2 other guys on the panel at that point. And all of a sudden, we just like, there was like a breaking conversation or something. And someone was like, why did it just get quiet? And me and James said, because we're trying to delete porn off of the message board. And so we could not make it stop. And so what does James do? James goes on this massive rant about how this
hacker... a massive rant. I say one line angrily, and you guys blew it out of proportion by laughing at me. I believe it was either you, Jan, or Jacob with the quote after what I said, where you guys were like, whoa! Probably Jacob, because it was that kind of voice.
Yeah, James went on to say how the hacker was a waste of life who probably lived in his basement and had nothing better to do and thus should go die or something.
I did not say he should go die, John. You're reading too much into it. They can go back and watch it. I just said he was a waste of space and he probably was in his mom's basement. That's all I said. I didn't say that he should die. If something happened to that guy, you can get me arrested now, John, or at least in suspicion now.
Okay,
I did not say the person should have died.
Okay, he did not say that, but I'm clearly misremembering that. But that was a really funny moment because that was just like it was so unexpected. We'd never seen James angry, so that was really funny. My other favorite.
If they saw the images that were being posted on the message board, they would see why I was angry.
Other favorite moments that I have. There was a recent one with the Bart Hamilton issues with the "fuck your shit" moment. That was really funny. To this day, I still crack up at that.
It was just the idea of Bart Hamilton being in the room with Peter and Flash and be like, you know what? Fuck your Flash. And he throws Flash out the window.
I'd also like to point out that James did the impossible and made Bart Hamilton kind of cool.
I said like to John because I'm writing a fanfic of Spider-Man 4. I'm really tempted to put a third goblin in that movie, make it Bart Hamilton, and just having him talk that way.
That would be amazing. But other favorite moments I have, I really like Spider Nerd Podcast episode 35, which is where me, James, and Ed Jones reviewed the Amazing Spider-Man 2 movie. I really like that episode. I really like our reunion show where
that was good.
Where it was
like, what, 4 or 5 hours of us just shooting the breeze about Spider-Man.
Yeah, I really like that. That was like episode 42, I think. Other good episodes. I like our Civil War review episode, the Civil War movie review episode. I thought that was a pretty solid one. And the one episode that I also like that comes to mind for as of recently is I really like the episode where it was the first issue of Volume 4 of Amazing Spider-Man, because I thought that we had like a genuinely good conversation, because that was back when I was positive about this run. And so it was me being positive and James being like mostly meh on it. And so
and Jan being completely hating it, because I think Jan was still on the show at the time.
No, Jan wasn't on that episode. So I thought James and I had a really good...
where it was like Jan was okay. I hated Volume 3, and then you were positive about it. Jan was mad, and I was not mad. And
then Volume 4 came along, and Jan was gone from the show by that point, I think. And so, yeah, I thought the first issue of Volume 4 had some really good discussion. So I like that episode a lot. But James, do you have any favorite episodes or moments about this?
A lot of them. Another one, and John's not on this, but the recording and the disaster, which was when me, Jan, and Jacob was going to continue the show without John, after John wanted it to end, and we didn't want it to end. And it was a complete disaster, but that's a memory for me, is because of how bad my DVD wouldn't work for Spider-Man 1. We were going to do a commentary on that, and then so we just changed plans and did it out of nowhere, no time to write notes, review of the first arc of Ultimate, and there was bad audio. We were like stumbling over each other. It was a disaster. But looking back on it now, that was a fun memory. A lot of the old episodes are ones that I'm really nostalgic for because they're farther back. We're still with the newer YouTube era, I guess you could say, of the show. It's kind of like, yeah, that was something I did a few months ago, where the older ones that go back a couple of years. It's like I look back on it now, and it's like every day was sunny and bright, and there's a lot of funny moments. Like kind of scenes, like I was talking to John. Some of my best moments are just like 3 or 4 hours before or after the show, where it's just me, him, Thomas, Ed Jones, Jacob, Jan, and we're just shooting the breeze off Spider-Man. It's just Spider-Man fans having a conversation, not about Spider-Man, but about anything from sports to work, to college, to high school, and Jan and John's point of view back then, movies, Taco Bell came up a lot of times because the chances are on our way to work or school, me or oh, excuse me, me or Jacob was on our way to Taco Bell. It seemed like we like running joke. Well, I'm on the way to Taco Bell. Like, literally, Jacob would always say in every conversation, like, well, I'm going to Taco Bell before work. Bye, guys. And like we would like just talk, and we would all just shoot breeze, and we would talk, and we would record the episode, and there'd be something that John would have to edit because they were no good. There was moments like where I were like John. It was either John or Jan, who when we were reviewing the older issues when we used to go in orders like ASM Classic, and we got to the issue where it was Last Ditko, not Last Ditko, but the one before Last Ditko, where Norman debuts, and I pointed out the obvious proof that Ditko did know that Norman was going to be the Goblin, and that was his plan all along. Like the whole fact that how did Norman get on top of the top building of the Bugle if he on the outside because there was no ledge for him unless he was on a glider. Plus, how did a guy who at the time had normal strength was able to knock out Spider-Man? And I think Jan was like legitimately like, oh my god, I never noticed that before. I think you're right. I think Ditko wasn't on it. I'm like, well, yeah, Ditko has come out in not interviews, but in essays and stuff like I said. Anybody who thinks I left because Norman was going to be the Goblin is a dumbass. That was the plan all along. He didn't use those words. It was more kind of cryptic Ditko stuff, but that's basically what he said. Like, if you think that I left over Norman being the Goblin, that is completely dumb.
Yeah, so yeah, we had a lot of good moments. We've had a lot of good moments over 100 episodes. It's been a ride.
Like the ASM2 movie commentary. Like, you go on the internet, just look up the new Ghostbusters. If you say any negative comment about that, you're either a feminazi or you're the most sexist man in the world who should die in a fire. And it's like like when it comes to movie and pop culture, that's the way it is. It's my opinion or no opinion with a lot of people. And I was shocked. Like, Ed Jones was very negative of the movie. Me and John were very positive of the movie, but there was no, you should die because you don't agree with me. It's not factually right. You're wrong. It was just three people having a discussion. And then there was moments where Ed Jones was like, you know what, going back on it, what you guys just mentioned, I think it actually was a pretty good scene. Or, oh, I agree, that was a good scene. And then there was other times where he would bring us up like, yeah, but, thinking back on it, and me and John were like, yeah, that doesn't really connect. I agree with you. That's kind of like the movie. We just talked about the movie. And I still like the jokes. That's our first audio commentary because we literally went in depth scene by scene because all three of us saw the movie like 4 or 5 times already.
So we had it memorized by that point.
To the point that it was eerily scary how John was like doing a radio drama of every Goblin scene in that movie. It was creepy as hell. And John just like saying every Harry line in that movie pretty much in the voice. And it's like, okay, somebody saw this movie too many times. And just as a context, I ranked up with one of the, not the same movie, but in the same trilogy of the movies we're going to watch today. Like, to the point of it, I sometimes like, will do my best turn to do my best James Franco just to kind of counterbalance it for John. Like the whole with the pie where he's like, how's the pie? Delicious. Or whatever the line is from 3, I can't remember it right now.
So good.
Oh, it's so good. That scene, I remember it still from 3, but that's because I still to this day think they missed a great opportunity with Harry as a Goblin. Where I always said they should have ended that thing where Peter walks away, but he turns around dramatically. There's Harry who's laughing at him. I still say, well, what they should have done was Peter's phone goes off. He has a text message from Harry. He flips open the phone, and then he sees, gotcha. And he turns around, and there's Harry laughing in the diner. That's how they should have done the scene, because when Harry was a Goblin, that was his catchphrase, gotcha, the Peter. So they should have done that, I felt like.
All right, but we will move on to the commentary here. Just to give everyone a minute to set up. Just what you need to do is pull out your Spider-Man 2 Blu-ray, DVD, whatever. If you have it on iTunes, pull that out. Whatever you need to do. If you are watching on a Blu-ray or DVD or anything like that, if you're going to the menu, to the title menu, play, scene selection, all that stuff, hit play and go past all the FBI notices. Just get past all of that stuff. And when the actual movie starts, hit pause and just set it to 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, however many zeros you have. That's where we'll start. That's where officially James and I are already there. We're just going to hit the play button and go, and we're just going to start the movie immediately. But before we do that, just as a little thing here to let everyone get set up, I just do want to thank everyone who's been on the show with me for the past 100 episodes, from Ed Jones, Warren Lewis. Please tell me that's his name.
Oh my God, John.
I know
what that makes you sound like. Oh, I don't remember the people I did the show with, but thank you.
No, his Facebook name is Warren Green, but I've literally forgotten what his real last name is. I think it's Warren Lewis. Thomas Patterson, of course, Jacob Blowbaum, James Markin, obviously, Jan Rawlings, everyone who's ever done this show. I am very, very grateful for all of you, especially James.
John doesn't hate you.
And no,
who's still to the same, who was supposed to be on this episode, but the last minute couldn't come on. And Jan literally texted me, well, now I know John will hate me. Because he thinks that John hates him for whatever reason.
We don't know why this is. I swear to God, we don't.
We're not like other podcasts where people left on bad terms. We do not hate anybody who's been on the show. I'm still friends with a lot of people. Hell, Thomas hasn't been on the show in over 3 years, besides for one episode of our reunion special. And we joke around that he's a zombie, and he's like, dude, cool, I'm a zombie. I mean, like, seriously.
I just talked to Jan last week. I just talked to Jan last week. I don't talk to people I don't like. Like, it's that simple. If I don't like you, I don't talk to you. So, given the fact that I just spoke with Jan last week, I think it's very obvious that I do not hate Jan.
Somebody who you haven't talked to in a while on the podcast goes, well, just that means he hates me then.
That's not true. Okay. I always dig myself into holes like this. All right, but
at least you didn't say what Thomas said that would have been on my best moment, but as a WTF moment, because that literally made me almost quit the podcast before I even joined the podcast. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I would say go back to the old feed, because John went back and pulled a Chris Benoit into, actually more kind of Hulk Hogan, because it's slightly racist to comment. He deleted it off the history of the website, and we're going to, from now on, pretend like it never happened. But it did. But I'm not going to say what it was, because John told me not to say what it was. All I'm going to say is, oh my God, it's that bad, I almost quit, and you should be ashamed of yourself, Zombie Thomas.
Yes, but don't worry. It probably won't be fatal to your campaign. Actual candidates have said things much worse than you have, and they're basically presumptive nominees. But all right, so thank you to everyone who's been on this podcast for 100. Well, not for 100 episodes, but who's been on this podcast for over the 100 episodes. Thank you to everyone who has come on. Thank you especially to James, because he has stuck with me through this whole thing. Another very specific shout out.
That's not true. I've only been on 84 episodes.
Yes,
I came in at 14. No, 86. I came in at 14.
But you've stuck with me up till now. So, but another specific shout out. I want to give a shout out to Ed Jones, who is also not here. If it was not for that man, this podcast would not exist. If he had not agreed to do the first episode with me, I probably would never have done one. So, thank you, Ed Jones. Look at the monster that you have created. This is all on you, Ed. All on you. When you go to heaven, when you were at the gates of heaven and you were talking to St. Peter, and they'll just have a question for you and say, did you think about the consequences of your actions when you agreed to do that podcast? And you may or may not.
His exact reply will be in a podcast.
Yes, because it'll be like 80 years from now. He'll be like, that's not exactly what I was thinking about. I'm sorry for my horrible British accent there.
I go, that's not the thing I thought you were concerned about. I was like, what, did Ed Jones murder a whole bunch of people and hide them in his basement?
Well, no. I was just thinking, Ed Jones would, if he'd be going to the gates of heaven, he'd be thinking about, all of the good things he did, with his wife and children. He doesn't have any of those yet, but I hope he will. I wish that on him, because, I hope he has a prosperous and happy future. I'm just going to shut my mouth now. I'm digging myself into a hole again.
It's not like you're giving his obituary. I hope when he gets to those pearly gates, he looks back at all the good moments of his life that haven't happened yet.
Ed Jones
he's not dead.
Ed Jones is still alive, people.
It's like that joke in Anchorman 2 with Brick. Brick, you're not dead, and he's at his own funeral because he's convinced that he's dead.
That's trippy. All right.
He got lost at sea, and he presumed he was dead. But he wasn't lost at sea. He came back. He people thought he was dead because he was, and because of that, he's convinced that he was a ghost. And he went to his own funeral to give a eulogy to himself at the funeral, only for everybody to get angry because here's a guy we're mourning giving his own eulogy because he's too stupid that he really believes that he's dead because everybody else thought he was dead.
All right, but so thank you to everyone. Here's to 100 episodes. Thank you to our non-official sponsor of Pure Aqua Spring Water, who has still not agreed to sponsor us. Probably because I've never contacted them.
Thank you to all my favorite sponsors over the year, mostly Dr. Pepper, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, whatever sodas we had around the house, water, milk, and my first favorite, alcohol. Because in some of those episodes, that I'm not an alcoholic, but some of those episodes, with some of those issues we reviewed, you just needed a drink.
All right, but yes, I've never actually contacted Pure Aqua Spring Water about sponsoring us, but if they want to, they always can.
Yeah, all right. They're gonna go like a YouTube page that has how many followers want us to be their sponsor? No.
What is their language based on the average episode? Okay, how many F-bombs do they drop? How many probably?
Yeah, I know we can record that.
All right.
South Park, in all their seasons, do not have as much F-bombs that we have said in like a span of 2 episodes.
All right, but yes. So I hope everyone is set up with their Blu-rays, their DVDs now, whatever. So it's just basic standard audio commentary format. We watch the movie, we comment on it. There may be times where we're not saying anything. Maybe that's just because we'll be wanting to let the movie speak for itself because there'll be something that we want to see or hear that we'll talk about in depth. We will try to stay relatively on topic with this film.
Well, you can go a little off topic because with Spider-Man movies, you can say, "Oh, I wish they did something like this with the Tom Holland movie," or "Hey, it's in this scene kind of similar to what they didn't do in ASM 2 with a different twist." Because I'm still convinced they just used the same goddamn. In ASM 2, I'm still convinced that the Osborn Mansion, they just used the Raimi one and just changed the changed the furniture up a little bit, and they were like done because that looks like the exact same set. I'm so convinced it is. They just changed the furniture around a little bit and go, okay, good. It's a new Osborn house. Roll with it.
All right, but if everyone's ready, if James is ready, we're just gonna get ready here. We're gonna hit the play button. So I will give a countdown. So let's count down from 10. We're not gonna count down from 100 because damn. But we're gonna just be going with Spider-Man 2 here. Like we said, standard audio commentary format. So we got 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, play.
Okay, we got the Sony Pictures Columbia stuff coming up now.
Yep. I will say that just to start off here, I actually really love this movie, but I am going to start off with a little bit of a complaint. I don't see the purpose of these opening title sequences at all.
Oh, come on. They're awesome. I like how they kind of the comic book feel with Alex Frost arc. It's recapping the first movie, almost like a comic when it's like last time on Spider-Man, and they had that stuff.
I know, but it's just like, hey, you know when you're in the theater and you're just like, you want the movie to start, you've been waiting for it anxiously, everyone's there, you're pumped, you see the title come up on the screen, and then you have to sit through 5 minutes of opening credits. It's just like, it's just a buzzkill. I think it is just a little bit of a buzzkill.
I don't mind this one because it's clips of the last movie. So like, if you didn't see the last movie, let's say since the last time it came out because you didn't get the video or the DVD at the time, this is a great way to refresh your memory. Okay, he got bit by the spider. Okay, he got superpowers. His uncle died. He fought a guy named the Green Goblin. Okay, there you go.
So, I will say that the graphics and the pictures in this are very well done. They're very well animated.
Well, it's Alex Frost art. What do you expect? He's the current cover artist for Amazing Spider-Man people.
Yes, tying it into current events. But of course,
The only thing you got is they reuse that same shot of Defoe. It's almost like Alex Rice. Alex Ross only had one William Defoe Green Goblin, like one made, and they're like, let's reuse that same one 3 times.
Yeah. But we also have the all the credits going down as well. Peter,
John literally doesn't got to read off the credits for this one because literally, if you're watching it with the audio commentary, the movie does it on its own for you.
Yeah, that is a very nice perk. I don't have to give the creative team for this.
But just in case, Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire, Lottie.
Blah 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 blah.
It's the same Goblin one again. They just did an extra close-up time on it. Yeah, this movie is really good. I still enjoy it. Stanley Steve Ditko, which was the first movie when they did that. It was a shock because every Spider-Man thing up until that it was just created by Stan Lee. Stan Lee's Spider-Man. Stan Lee presents Spider-Man, and then the movie comes out. All of a sudden, it's created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. We started trying to whoever was the writer or the artist who read it before. The movies would kind of start doing that, and eventually the comics would follow. Because even to the point that just recently Batman is now like it used to be everything was just created by Bob Kane. Now recently it's now created by Bob Kane with help from Bill Finger. So it's kind of getting, really credited now finally.
And of course we have our first opening shot of our hero staring very creepily and probably stupidly at a billboard of the woman he loves. Ladies and gentlemen,
I think it's named after Raimi's daughter because they were trying to think of a name for Mary Jane's perfume, and then somebody finally just said, "Hey, what's your name of your daughter?" And then Sam Raimi goes, "Emma Rose." Okay, that's it. Bye. And it started.
Well, of course, we got here Asif Mambi as Mr. Aziz. Many people, if you watch the Daily Show with Jon Stewart, you may know him. He was also in that terrible Avatar: The Last Airbender adaptation movie, but we won't speak of that.
I like this thing, especially coming because the first one was very much like just came out a year after 9/11, so it was very patriotic and pro-America with all the U.S. flags like that. And I do like the twist they did here, where you think a pizzeria in New York is going to be an Italian guy. No, it's somebody who's Middle Eastern descent who's running the pizza place.
Yeah.
So I do kind of like that how they did that. Like it's New York. It's you could have somebody of a different race or whatever opening a pizza shop in New York, and he's kind of a jerk boss, but it's not anything wrong with it. Because of him, it's because Peter Parker as well. Peter Parker, what do you expect?
This is a great moment coming up here. Peter running down the street into the alley, throws the helmet off.
I mean, this whole opening is like something you would see out of the comics.
Whoa! He stole that guy's pizza! That is Parker luck right
This
there.
is very Spider-Man. He's got a job. He's going to be late for its pizza delivery. He has a web swing. Crime's going on. Kids are going to get hit by cars. And people assume because Spider-Man has pizzas in his hands that he must have stolen them because Spider-Man's a menace.
Yeah, I love this scene too. It's such a great way to start off the movie. It's very, very low level, no supervillain, not even any criminals, just saving 2 kids from from being hit by a truck. It's very low level Spider-Man. It's friendly neighborhood Spider-Man at his best. I think that's a great way to start off the film.
Yeah, they had this in all 3 movies where they always had the scene where Spider-Man saves the kindergartner, or Spider-Man's not hanging out, but like he'll be looking at like a ticker on the board and it says Spider-Man saves the city, and a kid will go, "Wow, I like Spider-Man." He'll be like looking at them and smile and stuff like that. Like they really wanted to say that he's friendly, he's Spider-Man.
He's the guy that your kids can look up to. He's the guy that they can take example from. It's a good way to represent the character, I will say.
And I can't think of her name right now, but this is the chick from the show Bones. Because I know because every time my dad loves that show and he always watches it on Netflix and his DVDs. And whenever she's on the screen, he gets annoyed by the fact that I point out she's in a Spider-Man movie. Because he hates that where I mentioned whenever they're watching a movie or they're watching like some award show, I go, "Oh yeah, I know this actor. Oh, what movie do you know them from?" Like he'll name off some 80s or 70s or 90s movie, and I go, No, he was in Batman, or he was in Superman, or he was in.
I have to say, I have to call BS on this scene because this guy just brought you a giant stack of pizzas and you don't have a smile on your face. Shame on you. Because I'm sorry. Whenever someone brings me pizza, it's a good day.
It's a 30 minutes or less guarantee, and Peter just no-showed up, and I'm pretty sure those pizzas were like ripped up and torn and have webbing on them, John.
It's pizza, James. It's pizza.
Wow, I wonder what was the sponsor of this movie. Look at his like soda racks behind him.
Yeah. Nope.
I do like the touch here where he's like, he thinks he's gonna give him the second chance, and he's like smiling already, and all of a sudden just tears off the logo on his helmet.
And here we go. Here's our guy, J.K. Simmons, J. Jonah Jameson, the best.
Don't you mean Commissioner Gordon in the DCEU, or whatever the hell they're calling their cinematic universe?
J.K. Simmons as Jonah is the best adaptation of a comic book character ever brought on screen in a movie. It's just.
I'm still convinced the reason why we never saw him in the ASM movies is because in 3 they were building up for the reveal of being J.K. Simmons.
It's just. He's so good, and we also saw that.
I can see it's Jonah. Like, why didn't they gotta recast him now? Because he's going to be in the Batman movies as Gordon. It's like I can't see anybody else as Jameson though. He is J. Jonah Jameson. He is literally Jonah from the comics, pulled out Blue Skidoo style and put in a movie.
We've also got Bill Nunn there as Robbie. We got Elizabeth Banks as Betty Brant. Yeah, Rita Repulsa as Betty Brant. We also had Ted Raimi there as Hoffman.
Who they put in the comics every once in a while. Like in Civil War, there's a tie-in when Jonah finds out who Spider-Man is. I think it's the Frontline tie-in, and it's even on the cover. Kaufman's there in the office. They don't name drop him because probably Sony rights, but the illustration of the guy in the room with Jonah is clearly him.
One of the few Peter and Betty moments of this movie. We didn't get a lot of interaction with them in this trilogy, but I mean, we got some hints at some endearment that she has for him, I guess.
Well, she was told, like, when she got the role, like, she went back and researched the character, and she saw, oh, she's his first girlfriend. And then Raimi immediately told her, no, you're just going to help cheer him up every once in a while because he's in love with Mary Jane.
And apparently there's a Sam Raimi cameo here. Apparently one of these guys who hits him with a book bag is actually Sam Raimi. In this,
it's that one. The one with the suit that went by the...
Yeah. We got Dylan Baker here as Kurt Connors.
It's a shame that he was in 3 of these movies and he never got a chance to be Lizard.
No, he was only in 2. I think he was only name dropped.
He's name dropped in 3. I mean, he's name dropped in 1, isn't he? Because he's just Connor's partner.
Yeah, he's name dropped in number 1, but Dylan Baker's not actually in that movie though.
Because even with 4, he wasn't going to be the villain because it's ironic enough. Avi Arad said when Raimi goes, okay, we've been building him up for 2 movies now. We're going to have Lizard as the 3rd. Arad goes, well, we can't use him because he's unmarkable as a toy because he doesn't have a human face. They can't do like the Goblin and all that stuff. Like, oh, you take off the mask. He's just a lizard man. So, oh, he's unprofitable because you can't see his face. You got to kill him with a different villain for the movie. And then as soon as Raimi drops out and it becomes a reboot, almost like an F back to me. You know what? We're going to use the Lizard Afro. Who you really wanted, Raimi?
And of course, we have Aunt May's address. Oh no! Oh no!
With the world's shortest lawn, like literally as somebody who wants to mow his own lawn, you know, it's like, man, I wish I had Peter Parker's house with Aunt May. Yeah. It looks like all you got to do is go across one line and you're done.
Of course, we got Rosemary Harris here as Aunt May. Kirsten Dunst, James Franco, who, I'm sorry, ever since I saw that stupid movie, The Interview, you know, the one that we almost went to war over. Yeah, I cannot get that stupid movie out of my head every time I watch this now. I cannot see him as anyone other than Dave Skylark.
Well, because like in a lot of those Seth Rogen movies, he casts people as not as characters. He casts them just my friends, and maybe I'll just change their names.
But it's just like
that Rapture Apocalypse movie they all did together called This Is the End. It was a parody where pretty much like, hey, let's say the people who were left behind in the Rapture were all just actors because they're all assholes. Let's see how they survived the apocalypse. And Franco is one of the best characters in that movie, especially anywhere you think he's ascending to heaven and he's being saved, and he starts flicking off her, like, woo, it's me. And then God's like, no, Nope, it turns out the light and he falls down and gets killed by demons.
All right, but we got the classic Peter-Harry friendship here. Harry referencing that Mary Jane is waiting for Peter. Now, here's the thing.
Also, Spider-Man killed my father.
If this movie takes place 2 years after the first film, and Mary Jane
I don't think it is. I think I remember hearing somewhere like they said it's only 3 months after the first film.
No, this movie is 2 years after the first film. And so Mary Jane just been waiting around for Peter for 2 years? Because, like, girl,
I never got that it was a 2-year gap. I thought it was like, I remember hearing somewhere it's like, okay, the first movie ended in November and this is the following spring.
No, it was confirmed that this is 2 years after. But obviously we just missed a tense moment there between Peter and Harry. I always love that line, if you knew who he was.
For 2 years he's been doing this to Harry. They've been hanging out and it just boils down to, Spider-Man killed my father, you're taking photos of him. No, he didn't, Harry. Yeah, he did. Okay, see you next time when we watch the football game together, Peter.
But I love that line, if you knew who he was, would you tell me? It's so tense, and you can just feel the raw emotion.
It's a lot better in the comics to handle it. If you go back to the comics, Harry just immediately went after Norman instead of being like, mustache twirling supervillain to Peter. And they were never really friends and laughing hysterically. This one's more realistic, where he's just like, the guy killed my father, and you're my friend, and you're off being his personal photographer for his publicity shots. What the fuck's wrong with you, kind of? And this is a very Aunt May Peter thing where Aunt May's having trouble with the bills, so Peter feels like it's all his fault because if Ben was there, they would have had his retirement money probably, and they'll be able to live at least relatively nice, And here it's like she's all alone, she's a widow, and he can't even keep a pizza job. That is Peter Parker.
This is one of the most serious Aunt May moments of the entire trilogy. It's like, you don't really see Aunt May as like the forceful figure in this. She's more of the wise mentor, I guess you could say. But this is like,
she's not Aunt May from the comics, and I like that so far. Even Miss Tomei, like the 1 or 2 scenes that we've seen her with in Civil War, none of the Aunt Mays is the Aunt May from the 60s and 70s. The senile old woman who's always seconds away from death, it seems like. This is, every movie kind of does her kind of like what they kind of did, what they tried to do in the 90s on the Clone Saga before she died, and then what JMS did before she got shot. Notice how I said that all these career problems for Aunt May happened before she died or got shot or was near death. They all kind of took the more kind of, she's his rock, like she's his person he can always go to and the shoulder to cry on when maybe Mary Jane's not there. And here comes the scene that me and John both agree is like the worst scene in the movie. Let's just repeat the first movie again because nostalgia.
Yeah, this scene. If you guys are listening to the audio as you're listening along with us, we wouldn't blame you if you just hit the mute button on this scene for the movie, because you're not really missing any good dialogue or.
And they'll repeat this together like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, it's just like. Oh, hey, just as a like an aside, I hope no one's watching the extended version right now. I hope you're watching the theatrical version. I forgot to mention that. I'm sorry if you're watching the extended version and you're like completely lost. But
well,
yeah,
I don't think really any scenes added to this point, so just pause this and go back.
Yeah, but
yeah, the scene is like very much. For constantly, and this is one of the complaints people have with Spider-Man 2 is that Tobey comes off as a creep because he keeps on staying in scenes where I don't want to date you. It's my gift. It's my curse. I can't be with you. We can only be friends. I'm just there as a friend. I can never date you. I can't say why. But then other people will ask you, hey, you got a girlfriend? It's complicated. No, it's not. She asked you out, and you have constantly declined it. Granted, you're declining to be a superhero, but that's not complicated. She asked you out, and you keep on saying no to her. But yet, you're getting ready to go to her play. People are like, oh, going to see a girlfriend? Maybe it's complicated. Like, I agree with that. That is very melodramatic. And we're in the comics. I can see Peter saying that, hey, I want to date a girl, but I can't because Spider-Man. It's complicated. This is very much playing it up, though, like it's a soap opera. Like, I can't date her. But yet I'm going to be creepily wanting to go to her play, getting ready to tell people that it's complicated.
I love how Peter's just like, I mean, I get it. He's hurt that the girl he loves is seeing someone else. Like, dude, I can get
But
that.
what do you think was going to happen?
Yeah, it's just like,
Do you think she's going to go run through her life and love him and Spider-Man? Hey, she's going to be like, have a schoolgirl crush on Spider-Man her whole life, and she's going to love me, but I can't be with her. But at least I know she loves me. Wait, she has a boyfriend? What the fuck do you think was going to happen, Peter? It's been 2 years.
Don't disappoint me. I won't. Yeah.
Which is, again, very Peter Parker.
Which is, oh, and here comes one of the best original characters to ever come out of this trilogy.
He became the landlord of him and Michelle Gonzalez's place in Brandy Day. Because he's name dropped once when Michelle says, make sure you get the money to think of it, or something like that.
Can I spend it? This guy has the best facial expressions ever.
I like his line here. I have the eyes of a hawk and the fingers of a tiger, or something like that, or the nose of a rodent. Like, I just love it how he says that.
Like a cat, and eyes like a rodent.
And he like tries to do like a rat face. He's like, "Argh."
And Peter's like horrified because she sets the grill on fire. And of course,
because you get the sense it's New York. They're playing poker in a really shady apartment. You get the sense they're probably into like organized crime and stuff like that. Like, so Peter's thinking, if I don't pay the rent, I might get like somebody coming after my needs. Granted, I'm a Spider-Man, I can just kick their ass, but still.
And of course, you get Peter's apartment. Why do you have a picture of MJ on your nightstand, dude?
And it's a publicity, and it's the shot that he took of her when he got bit by the spider. It's like, really? Are you that sentimental, Peter? Hey, this is the photo I took of you when I got bit by the spider.
Well, I mean, it was a big moment in his life. I mean, he got bit by a spider that changed his life forever.
Like, I like how the Uncle Ben one is also like one that they had there in Aunt May's house too. So it's kind of continuity that there's multiples of that same photo. That May has one and Peter has one.
And of course, here we got the big guy, Alfred Molina, Otto Octavius, Dr. Octopus.
How do you like this portrayal of Otto? How they made him a sympathetic villain?
I love him. I think he's great. I mean, like, I don't have any problems with what they did here. It's okay, aside from maybe one thing that is a little bit weird, which we'll get to down the road as the movie progresses, but I really like this idea that Otto is just a guy who wanted to make the world better and got screwed over doing it. I really like that. And also I love the line, Nobel Prize, Otto, Nobel Prize.
Well, it's a similar. It's just some of the. Even though Harry's running Oscorp, he's not Norman. Where Norman was all back to Pharma and getting all mad at his employees and stuff like that, and ran it very strict. Harry's like, "Hey, you're gonna get me a Nobel Prize! Hey, this is awesome! Hey, look at the cool clothes I'm wearing. I'm taking my best friend to meet the scientist who he thinks is a god." Like, Harry is like, you can tell that Harry is like, people probably thought like Norman died and Harry took over. It was probably like a breath of fresh air. Because Harry at points is not like Norman. So you kind of got that sense it's kind of like more kind of like, bring your kid to work day, it's awesome, you know, kind of casual Fridays. Like, you imagine that Harry has that at Oscorp.
Renewable power flow.
Which makes sense because Harry's not a scientist. He would be just a business point of view of it and having other scientists actually do the science stuff. Unlike Norman, who was both.
I find it weird, though, that, like, Peter's, like, having dinner with them. I don't know.
He dared to talk to them, so I'm sure it was like, "Oh, come over for dinner. We'll talk during, like, me and my wife will cook something, and we'll talk about your paper and stuff like that." So I can see that happening. It's like, "Oh, you want to pick a friend who's writing a paper for me? Okay, I'll tell my wife to have him to set up an extra table for dinner tonight."
This is
kind of weird because Otto, besides for Aunt May and maybe a few other girlfriends, and obviously Anna Maria now, you never really saw Otto be like, "I had a wife before," and so this was kind of weird to see him like, "Oh, he's an average guy who has a wife who's really artsy and kind of hippie as she looks like."
And here's this moment that you were talking about.
It's like, this is Dr. Octopus?
Here's this moment, James.
Yeah, this is what I mean. When they're talking to him, and it's like, it's complicated, I don't know. No, you do know. She asked you out constantly. You said no, and then you told her, and then she told you she has a boyfriend now. It's not complicated. It's very much written in stone, Peter. And then a creepy smile that pretty much tells you he's going to be a villain.
Yeah.
And I like the way they portrayed Otto, because every other version of the character, like, they try to go over the top, like, almost like a German accent with the character, like the 90s show. And this one, it's just Alfred Molina being Alfred Molina.
I
And
also
yet he looks like Otto enough so you believe that it's Otto from the comics. Like, he has that pudgy Doc Ock look to him.
okay.
He's not old. He's not like what the original script for the movie was going to be, where he's going to be like Ultimate, where he's going to be younger and more lean. Like, Raimi completely scrapped that. And he was going to be like a rival for Mary Jane and everything. Thank God Raimi scrapped that and just went with, okay, no, he's going to be Doc Ock from the comics. He's going to be the pudgy fat guy.
And I also love how Peter is literally just like memorizing lines of poetry to just say to Mary Jane at random. Just whenever he's having a conversation with her, he's just going to be like, I've been reading poetry lately. So he just starts reciting it.
Like I said, Toby's really creeper in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
And that's
Go
again
look
another
at that
Peter Parker
body.
moment. He puts his costume in with his whites, so now all his whites come out pink. I mean, Toby really, in this movie, because the writing really pulls off Peter Parker.
Well, yeah, because it's like, and that's one of the things we were talking about this before the show of, is this, a lot of people look back on this movie and don't like it as much because of the recent superhero movies that have come out and the sort of reinvention of how you do the genre and everything. And my opinion on this is good storytelling is good storytelling. I mean, like, it doesn't matter when it came out. It's like, if your characterizations are solid and your plot is, your plot makes sense, your plot is cohesive and it works. I mean, it doesn't matter if it came out 1900s, 2000, 2004, 2016. It's like, good storytelling is good storytelling. And this is a perfect example of that with what you just said, James. The characterization of Peter Parker is pretty much on point.
Yeah, it's like, and like I'm like a lot of people. I believe Toby was a perfect Peter Parker, but probably not the best choice for Spider-Man. And Andrew Garfield was the perfect choice for Spider-Man, but maybe not the best choice for Peter Parker.
Shut up. You suck, James.
I meant in a writing sense, like how the character was portrayed. Like Peter Parker, you got to be an emo guy riding a skateboard, Bart Simpson style in the classroom. And then this movie was very much the nerd, trouble, can't get the girl, stuff like that. But then he would flip-flop it where as Spider-Man, Toby's very melodramatic and maybe a few quips every here and there, but not too many. And then obvious green screen is obvious.
Yeah, it's like, Jesus. That's where the movie shows its age.
And this is another thing that happened in all three movies. It's like with the kids. It's like the kids would see him using his powers, and he would like go shh or something to them, and they would shut up about it.
Oh, James, this isn't even the biggest moment of that in this movie. Oh no, we're still getting to that.
But it's like that in 1-2 where he shoots out the webs to grab the people. Stan Lee, when he's probably getting crushed during the Goblin fight in Times Square during the parade or whatever the hell was going on. And he like webs up remember them to grab them, and then all of a sudden the kids are like, awesome! And he's just like, this is them. The kids are going to shut up and they just all Spider-Man.
It's a web.
No, doll, you're in a city with Spider-Man.
Yeah. I love this part right here where he goes right in between that truck and the trailer. That's awesome. I don't know why. It's just I've always thought that was really cool.
Because it's very Spider-Man.
And this shows the exact like spider speed, spider sense. He just dodged like however many bullets these guys are shooting out with these guns, and he's not gotten hit once.
This scene is very Spider-Man. It's him.
And he webs into the lamppost.
Stop a carjacking.
And he webs into the lamppost.
Batman who's just able to go up to the stage going, sorry, I was late. Alfred popped a tire in the limo. Okay, Bruce, that's okay. Now let's go back to my bedroom and bang. Awesome. This is Peter Parker. Sorry, I'm late. Traffic in New York was murder. You're an ass, Peter. And then people will walk away from him.
The importance of being earnest.
Which I think that was like what the fake titles they give movie. Here's the Bruce Campbell cameo coming up. I like, was a stolen car, and he's like, you can't park this here, I'm going to tow it. And Peter's like, okay. What
yeah, he's just like, whatever.
He stole it then? When it comes back to that was a stolen car?
Well, I mean, the guy doesn't know Peter Parker from Joseph. I mean, like,
But I mean, when he gets back out there, you think he'll read the license plates and say that car was just stolen. Hey, look, it's Mysterio. Literally, Bruce Campbell was going to be Mysterio in 4. It's been confirmed now with, like, storyboards and stuff like that. Which I think that's a great way to explain how he was all 3 of these different people. That it was Quinn and Beck maybe messing with Peter this whole time, pretending to be different people, and he never noticed it.
quiet, please, while play is in progress. And here is this woman who, as a music major, makes me hate life.
She's a real violinist, though, I think. They wanted to put in as a cameo because one of the people who worked in the movie was a fan of hers.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the violin playing.
Well, I think they're playing up as a joke that she can't sing the song.
I know.
Fits in with Parker Luck.
I know, but still, bad singing is bad singing to me, James.
I think ASM 1's the only Spider-Man movie so far that hasn't had the 60s theme song in it. Because ASM 2 had it a lot.
Yeah, Amazing Spider-Man.
We just heard it here. It comes up again later on in this movie, too.
Yeah. And here
is Man Wolf.
Oh my God, MJ, wait, quick, around his neck, make sure there's no necklace with a red jewel that he found on the moon.
Make sure there's no necklace they ran on the moon. Make sure he's not also seen a big green Hulk woman.
And make sure the guy's like, just check for fur. Just check for that. Just
make sure he doesn't have no daddy issues for Jonah.
Oh, Mary Jane, you knew he was there and you still did that? Oh, come on.
Bitch move, Mary Jane. Bitch move. It's like you almost get a sense that she want to get him jealous there.
Oh, I think that was definitely the intention throughout this movie. Is like, oh, hey, you've led me on for 2 years, and now I'm just gonna date this guy.
Because I always kind of took that as she looks back and she thought she saw him, but then he's gone, so she said, "Oh, I must have been imagining that Peter was here." Like, I took it as, like, she really wanted Peter to be there so much that she just assumed, oh, my God, I wanted him here so badly that I imagined that he was there on the stoop.
Now, here's the thing about this movie is what we saw Spider-Man's webs fail for the first time in this movie. Did they ever explain why that happened?
No, in the comics, they did that with ASM 1. I mean, annual number 1, remember? Where he was starting to doubt himself and he was losing his powers. So that has happened before in the comics. It just felt really much like right here they wanted to do it as like Spider-Man no more. Is it because he's quitting because his life is too hard, or is he quitting because he literally loses his powers?
Like, is it because of is he losing his powers because he's stressed out? Is it because he's miserable? I think
it's mentally. I think it's like a mental block going on. Like he mentally thinks he shouldn't be doing this, so his body's shutting off the powers. It's all in his head. It's psychological that he's doing this.
Yeah, I mean, like, the guy, I mean, we'll talk about this more down the road, but of course, there is that scene in the doctor's office, and he says, my diagnosis? It's up here. So that could be it. And, of course, the classic elevator scene, which still...
people either hate or love, because they go, well, it's too awkward and not funny. That's the point of it. It's not supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be awkward. You got this Hollywood cameo of a stand-up comedian who does like a lot of VH1 shows that were popular at the time in the elevator with Spider-Man talking about how he gets a wedgie in the crotch area by his costume. That is the uncomfortable feeling you're getting is what you're supposed to feel. The whole fact that they're both hitting the elevator buttons to try to get off this really awkward elevator ride.
Slowest elevator in the world.
And of course, everywhere he goes, he just sees her billboard.
Yeah, like
earlier in the movie when he's about to get hit by that bus, it's on the bus. It's almost like constantly she's in his face. Like it's hard to forget about a girl when she's literally on every billboard in the city.
I've never had that problem, and I'm starting to think that maybe that's a good thing.
Well, this is the one time they ever did the Mary Jane modeling. It's just in this movie with the fragrance. Because with 3, they completely dropped it and said, Gwen's the model. Why? Well, because we put all the other Gwen Stacy stuff in Mary Jane, so we had to add some Mary Jane stuff we cut out into Gwen.
And of course, this is a classic example. We talk about Parker Luck a lot on this show because, creators talk about it, fans talk about it. The concept of the Parker Luck is always brought up when it comes to Spider-Man. What is it? How does it work? This scene right here, and this movie in general, I think, if you ever need a guide to how the Parker Luck is supposed to work, just watch this movie. Because this
literally
is
every scene where me and Johnny go, that's very Peter Parker, is like, that's very Peter Parker Luck.
It's like this scene right here. He missed Mary Jane's show because he had to be Spider-Man. He's having a strained friendship with Harry because of Spider-Man. All of this stuff.
He can't even get his apology out because he doesn't have enough change to continue the call.
Yeah, it's just like.
Which nowadays in the movie he wouldn't have that problem with cell phones.
But it's just like here. It's just if you want an example of how the Parker Luck works, this movie really is like the definitive way of it. I mean, we're just a few minutes ago we were talking about good storytelling is good storytelling, and I still think like this movie does a lot to get Spider-Man right. It does a really, really good job of understanding the character.
The one thing I always say about the Raimi trilogies, even 3, it felt like you were reading classic 70s, 80s, 60s, and even some 90s.
And I
don't think that none of that was on purpose. Because Raimi was very anti-60s, 70s, and like late 80s stuff. You really get a sense that this is very classic Peter Parker.
Yeah, I mean, like, Raimi has always been a very big fan of the 60s and 70s era of Spider-Man, so I don't think it's an accident that we're seeing the tone being reminiscent of that.
Even when the lighting in New York, it has that really golden gray look whenever the sun's out, and he wanted that because he wanted to look like a comic book where it's this bright sunny day, and then the issue begins with some bank robbers wearing bandanas over their faces or robbing a bank, and here comes Spider-Man as they're running out with the bank full of it. And I do feel like this is the one homage to comic, Otto. It's the fact that he has this really ugly gray, like, science jacket on. Like, that's the one time you see Otto actually looking like something Otto would wear in the comics. Like the scientist, mad science jacket.
You know what brings me a little bit of shame about this? Is this movie came out 12 years ago, and only about 2 years ago did I finally understand that stupid rubber band joke about we found a $20 bills with rubber band and we found the rubber band and shit. It took me like 10 years to understand that joke. I feel kind of badly about that.
Why? What did you think it was?
I never got it. I never understood it. I was like, why is that funny? But I didn't understand what he was actually saying.
Well, why is it funny, John? I want to hear what your explanation is for it.
I'm just going to shut up now. But yeah, it's
for years I just thought it was a joke about him making a joke like, hey, guess what? We have a lot of money for this thing, and we found the rubber band for the money because we spent it all.
I don't know.
Because literally, Oscorp is, you got a sense that Oscorp, once again, after all this stuff of fucking Norman being the Green Goblin and all that shit, that they are in very desperate needs. And it's like, fuck, we created another one of these nutcases.
And of course, we got the debut of the Tentacles here. The Tentacles look pretty good in this movie. I
don't like how they made them AI though. That they're like Terminator robots that take over his brain.
Yeah, that is like we were talking about Otto earlier, and I will say that is the one part. I don't dislike that part. I just find it a little bit weird. Like
they're trying to explain why in the comics they seem that they have a mind their own every once in a while, but that's because they got the psychic link to Otto from being attached to him for so long. It's like literally like extra arms to him. Here it's like, oh, I got a brain thing to make sure they don't take control of me. Oh, what? It breaks and now they take control of me? No, I'm evil. It's like, let him be Doc Ock. Let him just be evil. To make it, he thinks he's doing good. Like, be the classic villain thing of, like, villain never thinks he's a villain. He always thinks he's good even when he's doing bad. You can do that. But don't be like, oh, the arms are controlling me and making me. Because why would the arms want to rob banks and shit like that? That's stupid.
Yeah, it's just like, it's a little bit, I don't hate it. I love this movie. I love this iteration of Otto. It's just a little weird.
I just don't like the whole he's a reluctant villain being controlled by the arms. Like, I get the metaphor, he's being controlled by the arms, but still.
Yeah, it's like the analogy of a scientist being consumed by his work.
But literally, it's controlling him. I get that that's what they were going for, but still. Like, his wife's dead, he lost all his money, Spider-Man pulled the plug on the thing, he blames that for it. That's all you need. You don't need him to be, oh, they're controlling me. He doesn't say that in the movie. But he does go, listen, they're making you what you're not, Otto. Listen to me. I'm in control now. Listen to me now. It's like you don't need that with the arms. Just had them be his arms.
Here's a question I have, and it's kind of unrelated to this movie, but right here, you see Harry's clapping. This guy in the glasses, this guy who's talking to Harry, this old guy, is that the Daredevil TV show? Is that the priest that Matt Murdock goes to talk to?
I think that is.
I swear to God, that's the same guy.
First movie. He's in the boardroom with Norman.
I swear to God, that guy with the glasses, I swear to God, that's the priest guy from Daredevil, the show. But
like, this shot right here is very Otto, with the goggles and him smiling, working with the arms, and like the power is in my hands. You know, that's a very Otto Octavius line.
Oh yeah.
And of course, Peter, because I guess the spider sense is the first one to notice that something's off.
Yeah, and I love how Ock is like, no, it's just a spike. It'll stabilize. Otto, it's sucking stuff into it and vaporizing it.
People are being burned alive in like a mini. I never got how this was supposed to be a good invention. We're gonna recreate the sun in a smaller form, I guess, for energy, for cheaper fuel and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, that's his point. But
it's a sun. It's a star. What did they think was gonna happen?
Under control. I always loved. I don't know why, but as a kid, I always loved this moment where Spider-Man just comes in right at the last second.
And he's like, this doesn't change anything.
This doesn't change it. You just saved my life. I would have died, but it doesn't change anything.
See, that's very Doc Ock. He's preventing him from doing it. And the arms are in control at that point.
And this is the tragic moment.
Where the glass comes at her throat.
It comes in her eyes, too. It's like, Jesus. Okay, here's my question. Why did the sun just hit? How is the rest of him not burnt alive? I understand, like, the metal part of it.
I took it as the arms are taking most of it because they're metal.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, I get that the metal thing, but, like, how is the rest of him not burned alive, at least even slightly?
Because they saved him, John.
But yeah, so man,
if this was Dan Slaughter in this movie, there would be a Peter in that close-up of him staring at the aftermath. He'll be like, "I should have never came. It was all my fault. Even though everybody here would have been dead if I never came."
I'm ruined. Nothing left. Nobody saw that, dude. Everyone was out of the room by that point. Like, get over yourself.
I like it. She just had glass and everything, like, stab her, but yet she's perfectly, like, no cuts or nothing on her face.
Yeah, it's... Just go with it.
Why you see it come with the eyeball, and I guess now that's what you're both thinking, that it gets her in the eye. But you don't see no eye on the blood on the eye.
Well, yeah,
and
because...
the horror movie scene. The scene that as a kid used to scare the living shit out of me. And I was 14 at the time, but shut up.
Yeah, this scene right here with the arms in the hospital.
On the audio commentary for this movie that are on the DVD and the Blu-ray, they said this is very Sam Raimi getting his, because Sam Raimi is the horror director. They said this is him getting his horror itch out in the movie.
Yeah, it's like this scene is Sam Raimi, and that's all it is. Like
you got the moodiness, you got the foreshadowing with like he's noticing kind of Jurassic Park, the thing shaking,
and it has no
reflection here of the arms coming up.
And there's no reason for this scene to be here. Like,
other than the show, like they said, it was Sam getting his horror fix out of the way.
But I mean, well, to give it credit, it does show the strength of the arms. It shows like how destructive they.
Why would these arms want to kill and electrocute people?
Well, no,
when I was a kid, it freaked me out with him throwing them up in the lights.
I'm not talking about like the arms as an AI. I'm just talking about like their strength, like what the arms as weapons could be able to could physically do. So I guess maybe you could look at it like that and justify it.
Like that guy got impaled. Like how they got past that with a PG-13 movie, I'll never guess. Because I guess because there was no blood.
I guess. I mean,
But you see the arms go like this, like they close like a spike and they go right through the guy as he goes to the wall. And then here's the guy with a saw who's not going to get cut up by him.
And Otto wakes up.
Now, here's the weird part about it, though. Because when you see the close-up of his face, he has this very angry look to him. So you get the sense that he's the one doing it. But then, like, right here, he's like, oh my god, what have they done? It's like, but they had a close-up of his face where he's got like this very moody, like, when they're doing this.
I think it was more the idea that he was unconscious and it was his subconscious mind that was kind of controlling it. I think maybe that's what they were trying to lead at.
That he thinks it's AI from the arms, but it's really just his subconscious doing it?
Possibly.
Kind of like it's too about how when he walks out, even though you don't see it, there's like shadows of bodies hanging on the walls. The symbolize he just didn't kill the people in that room. He on his way out was just murdering people. And then the clerk of the trailer shot where he's the close up with the arm opening up.
Now so he's at this pier with, I guess, just some random remnants of a warehouse.
The video game is so weird because it's like Trevor all in New York City, and here's this random abandoned, pier building thing that nobody thinks to look for Otto in the whole movie or the game.
Guy named Otto Octavius winds up with 8 limbs. What are the odds?
Is this where they name out Doctor Strange as one of the people?
Yeah, this is where they name drop. That's crap. Science Squid?
That it's taken.
Doctor Strange. It's pretty good. It's taken.
I get it, that's an Art Ditko reference, but I don't think Sony didn't have the rights to Doctor Strange at the time. So it's almost like really weird now with like all the movie, like what you can and can't use. It's like where they really get away with that. Name dropping that Doctor Strange exists in this universe. Because he doesn't just say that stupid name, he says that's already taken.
You're fired. I love this moment.
Because you get a sense like that Robbie knows.
I just love that line of, "Oh, you're unfired. I need you. Come here."
It's like, Peter, did you take any photos? No. Well, Spider-Man was there, and the look he gives, it's very Robbie from the comics, pretty much saying, I know Peter.
The most gifable moment of any superhero movie is this laugh right here.
That became a meme. We're looking at a perfect internet meme.
Literally.
Here's another thing I noticed too about the movie. This is very much him wanting the whole fact that Betty has the 60s hairstyle in 2004 and 2002 and 2007. She has that 60s girl curly haircut. Which, granted, Betty has always had that haircut post, like, what, issue 10?
Yeah. And now, of course, the weird supervillain monologue.
No, it's their fault. It's Spider-Man's fault. And, of course, foreshadowing to the end of the movie, where he says that Mealy's arm should be at the bottom of the river.
Yeah.
See, you get the sense that they're controlling him because they're AI, because they said that's what the chip was for. But this would have been so much better off if they never name dropped that, and you can believe that, no, it's him going insane, thinking they're controlling him, but they're not.
And
like, they would say that later on, that, no, you're just insane, these things aren't controlling you. I would be okay with it. It's the fact that because they wanted him to be the sympathetic villain at the end, they just had him be like, oh, they are controlling him, he's actually a nice guy. And if you read the comics, Otto ain't a nice guy.
I love how, like, in his moment of despair, he's thinking about this random college kid that he met. He's just like, Peter was right. I miscalculated. I couldn't have miscalculated.
It's because this is a thing that they always do with Otto and extra in other media, is that they always make him have the connection to Peter Parker as a teacher or some scientist he at least looked up to. Because in the comics, it's never that. It's just he's just some random nuclear mad scientist who gets arms grafted to him.
You're right.
But it's like everything else is like, oh, Otto Octavius, he was my teacher, or oh, he was a scientist I looked up to, or both put together, or whatever.
I love how he's like, the real crime would be not to finish what we started. No, Otto, the real crime is to break into a bank, break stuff, and terrify a bunch of people by stealing money.
It's like, in his mind, it's all for the greater good. But when you're standing up on the power of the sun and Spider-Man can't stop us, nothing! That's villain. It's the soup.
Yeah, I was just going to point that out. It's like, hey, it's the guy from the E! Network.
I love that how Peter's trying to tell the bank guy about the insurance, and he's like, I know that already.
I'm giving
Again,
piano
the
lessons.
Parker luck, Aunt May's trying to kick Peter to get him to shut up about things, and then here instead she kicks the bank out and makes them even more mad at them. So it shows that May too has the Parker luck. Or maybe it's just Peter rubbing off on it because he's there, so she was able to kick him, so like got her in trouble.
Of 300 or more. That's so sad. She doesn't even get the toaster. It's so sad.
Well, that's the point. Because again, John, it's the Parker luck. This whole movie is literally just the Parker luck. Every scene with Peter is the Parker luck.
Who's going to pay for that?
Here's very 1940s comic book bank robbery scene with the big vault and everything.
Yeah, it's like, I'm pretty sure banks don't work like that.
I know some banks in town have a big vault, but money's not actually in there. It's just for show of, oh, it's a design to make it look like we have the gigantic vault. But it's open and there's nothing in there.
Yeah, like if they keep anything in there, it's a coffee machine, some break room or something.
There's a bank downtown here that's in a very old building that looks like something like it's like an old-fashioned bank in a big city. And they have that because obviously back then they probably had it like that in the 40s and 50s, but now they don't. So now it's literally just open in there with fake like Monopoly money where you can walk with the dollar bill bags and it's like something like, oh, you can walk in there, kids, and it's like you're in a bank vault. Gives you something to do while your parents are taking out a deposit or whatever.
I love this moment where he tries to pocket. Ow! And this is a great moment right here. Get my nerves.
This is the interesting thing here in the scene. Because Otto and Aunt May are in a scene together and they don't do the whole she falls in love with him thing. They do the complete opposite.
Yeah, that is nice to see. Now here's my question. I've had this question for 12 years. Where did that desk come from? Because he didn't web that.
Like I got the sense that when he stopped the other one, Peter quickly just whipped up the other one at him.
I know, but it's just like, where did that desk come from?
And this part is very comic book. When Peter's jumping out the window at him and he's using the arms to rip doors off the cars to throw at him. And he's ducking and finally the last one hits him.
And this is a great scene right here. This
I like the woman here. How she's like, give me a second.
Yeah, it's like, what exactly is on our building? Oh,
it's like, oh my god, it's in New York with movies. It could be aliens. It could be giant monsters. No, it's a guy with robot arms and an old lady.
It's like, oh, that's a new one.
I wonder where Doc got all these clothes. He was in rags just a minute ago.
Maybe he just stopped by Goodwill.
Yeah, John. Guy who was willing to rob a bank just stopped into the Goodwill. That part called BS.
Hey, Stanley.
Falls, slow enough so that way she can hook onto it with her umbrella.
But James, don't you get it? The angel saved her.
This moment is kind of bad, especially with Doc Ock, where you can tell it's just a CG guy. Because he's not in a suit like Peter.
But yeah, a lot of the action, we'll bring this up later, but a lot of the action in this movie is just so top notch. A lot of it has yet to be topped in any superhero movie, I think.
Because the CGI is like clearly 2004. But then again, this movie came out in 2004, so what do you expect?
She's right. How did she not? Did she not look down at all? Like,
John, when you're in a situation like that, they tell you not to look down.
but I always look down. Never mind. Aunt May.
I love how you look at what's in there. That's not an office building, John. You know what that is? That's a sweatshop.
Yeah. I mean, it could be like a dry cleaner's.
No, John, they're sewing knockoff clothes.
Okay.
Oh, that's where you got it from then.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I don't know. I love that moment where she just hits him right in the eye.
And again, repeating the first movie, the Mary Jane moment where he swings out at her is now repeated with Aunt May. Which in the comics, especially 60s to 70s, she would have a heart attack. No, I think it's an extended version, but I think those two girls like talk about how the old lady's so lucky because they're being swung off by Spider-Man. Like one of them goes, "She's lucky" or something like that, stupid like that. Or maybe it's Tara after she landed.
I love how this moment she's like she realizes that Spider-Man's the hero and that she's been wrong about him this whole time. I love this moment. It's just such a nice.
That's the moment that Aunt May should have had like 50 years ago in the comics.
Yeah, it's a nice scene. And of course, classic.
Take me too. It's one of the girls runs up to Aunt May saying, "Take me too."
The planetarium tomorrow night, 8:00. There's the door.
Like the planetarium is literally shaped like a planet.
Well, yeah, it's a planetarium.
But it's in like a Rubik's Cube. A glass of Rubik's, and again, Parker lucky can't get the food. Like throughout this whole movie, throughout this whole scene, he literally can't get a break. You're like, oh, the lens goes, and they're like, fuck you, walk away. And, like 3 or 4 times, he'll walk up to the bar or something and go to get something, and he'll turn around because like Carrie or Jonah will bump into him, and then he'll come back and it's gone.
This scene right here is it's so tense between these two characters. It's
starts like smacking Peter in the face, which according to Sam Raimi, he loved doing this with the actors, where he would put scenes in them so that they would get beat up. Like from the book bag, heavy books hitting, whacking against his head, to sand rocks being dropped at people's heads in 3 and stuff like that, to Toby being slapped. And I guess according to the audio commentary, Raimi had that happen 100 times. And I love that scene where Jonah completely spells out that the guy has a mistress.
Yeah, it's
Here's
like
his girlfriend. Oh, I mean his wife.
Well, I never took it as the mistress thing. I always took it as like, oh, Jonah just didn't know. But John, I love how the older woman is describing him as delicious in front of his father.
Well, I think Jonah wants that. He wants it to be, oh, he's a ladies' man. Like, I imagine Jonah wrote that script for it. He's a ladies' man. He's beautiful. He's me. He's a younger me.
You know, I gotta sympathize with Peter here. It's like that's gotta suck.
Every guy knows that moment when not really. He knows that moment where there's a girl, your ex-girlfriend, you still got feelings for, or your crush, and you see her with another guy.
It's like if you see your girl. It's like if you see the girl that you've always loved, and she's with the captain of the football team. It's like that. That's pretty much what that situation is, I think.
Like I had this moment in high school where when the homecoming dance, there was a girl I wanted to ask out, and then there was a guy who I absolutely hated in high school. And then right when I was about to go ask her out, literally I found out somebody, yeah, that's her boyfriend. So it was like a big fuck moment because I absolutely hated the gut stuff. And the girl who I wanted to ask out, I had a crush on. He's dating. It's like that's very, is she going out with him kind of thing.
I am glad that I never had that specific experience. I will say I never actually had like the guy I actually hated.
Real world, like I can relate to that. This ain't me trying to relate with him fighting Doc Ock. This is me relating to Peter Parker.
John has seen my show 5 times. Okay, I'm sorry. I won't do that terrible sexist voice.
Mary Jane in this movie is very not much like Mary Jane in the comics. Like, I can see her getting, especially now with how she's been written, but I can see her getting mad at Peter for no showing the event, but it's other scenes where, like, every line of dialogue is either, I'm with John now, but I still secretly maybe have feelings for you, or her outright saying, I still have feelings for you and I'm about to cry. There's no party girl, happy Mary Jane, which they kind of had in the first one, where it'd be the popular girl and being like in the beginning, all the, oh my God, and I know, and oh gosh, and so they wanted to go on party with the cool kids. Like they had that a little bit, the party girl Mary Jane, but like from here on out, it's like completely gone from the character.
I love that sax solo.
I was actually playing the sax this time, and I was like, damn, I wish I could be as good as that guy. Because I was so bad. My band teacher literally told me during our performances, just stand there and pretend like you're playing, because I was that bad.
Oh, this you could see he's drunk, but he's also like really upset.
He's crying because he thinks he let down Norman. You know, in his head, he's hearing Norman yelling at him. And he's like, you were like a son to my father, you were like a brother to me, and you betrayed him by taking photos of Spider-Man. And he starts slapping at him, calling him his brother, which as a wrestling fan, now with the whole Brother Nero has a completely different meaning.
And here's the thing: when Peter finds out that she's engaged, and he's just had this horrible emotional moment with Harry like literally hitting him, and
you can see why Peter would say, "Fuck this, I'm done."
Well, no, I was actually just going to say, like, he sees Mary Jane getting engaged. He's like, actually, Harry slapping me wasn't so bad. Hey, Harry, I'll take more of that over that.
Oh, my God. That exact moment when you realize the current arc's first issue is basically the scene a little bit. Peter sees MJ with Tony, which is the fill-in for John, but it's a fancy formal party that Peter, Harry, and MJ are all at.
And of course, this is the big pivotal scene. Of course, take the mask off, because why not? Well, actually, it was really wet, so yeah, okay, I can see that.
It's because it's Sony, and it wouldn't be a Sony Spider-Man movie without him taking the mask off every 5 seconds. Like, I imagine the Sony Marvel deal included one of the greatest things that Sony had. He got to take off the mask every 5 seconds when he's wearing it. Because of the Rock put it. Nobody can relate to people if you don't see their faces.
And I gotta say, like, I really do like the wall crawling scene in this. I think it's well shot. It's well angled.
Like, the way I got it is like Dr. says later, it's all up here. Like, I took it as he's not literally losing the power. It's just psychologically he's doing it to himself.
Yeah, I think that's what they were trying to say. Like, especially with that doctor scene that's going to come down the road.
It's like after I broke my knee and I was going for after the surgery and I started rehab, I thought I couldn't like ever not walk again, but I felt like I could never run again or bend my knee again or do things with my knee again. And it took me a few times before I finally like got that mental, out of my head that I can't do this, and well, you never know unless you try. And I realized, oh, I can do that again. So I can get that where like there's mentally something in him that's saying you can't do this. Like he subconsciously doesn't want to be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And this is a very Doc Ock moment too, where he's building all this stuff with the arms while one of the 3 arms is like lighting a cigar for him.
Yeah.
That is something literally that Larson said he loved to do when he had a Doc Ock arc while doing Spider-Man. Was having Doc Ock like in his free arms smoking a cigar or drinking, a cup of coffee or something like that. And while his other arms are like beating the shell of Spider-Man or robbing a bank or something.
That skeleton in the background is very creepy here in the doctor's office. It's really creepy.
It's probably from Electro from Sam Raimi's horror movies. He's like, here.
And also, I want to point out here that like Peter's excuse for he's like, oh no, I'm Spider-Man in my dream. No, actually, it's a friend of mine's dream. That is the worst alibi I've ever heard.
Well, to be fair, we have seen Peter Parker do that in the comics too. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he told the doctor his name is Peter Palmer, like he did in Untold Tales.
What does he climb these walls? What does he think of himself?
Because I get it, because the doctor still doesn't put two and two to Spider-Man, because it literally could just be Peter's embarrassed to talk to him about these dreams. Like, oh, it happened to a friend of mine. He's having these dreams. The doctor's like, okay, I get it. It's really you having these dreams about something going on in your own life, but you're too embarrassed to say that you're dreaming that you're Spider-Man. I get it. Because trust me, if Peter Parker, Toby plays it off so well that if he walks into your doctor's office and said, "I'm Spider-Man in a dream," you would literally like laugh at him as soon as he walked out there, like he thinks he's Spider-Man.
You'd call the psychiatrist and say, "Hey, this guy is actually delusional."
Yeah.
And here, of course, Cliff Robertson, rest in peace.
Again, nostalgic. They're repeating the first one with the power and responsibility speech. Which again, people bitch about this movie too. I'm bringing up power and responsibility and Uncle Ben, but how many times in the comics is he constantly him, not necessarily saying power and responsibility, but him like remembering Uncle Ben or seeing the ghost of Uncle Ben or Uncle Ben coming up in a line of dialogue or
at least
like or
at least once a year.
Not even that, maybe like once an arc.
It's just like.
I like how even in the afterlife, Uncle Ben is aging, and it even happens again with the flashbacks in 4E. It's like that same thing that happens with a lot of movies, where it's like, hey, this guy's supposed to be a ghost because he was the old mentor or the father figure, and yet he's aging as these movies go along with sequels like Obi-Wan Kenobi, when he's a Force ghost and he's older than he was in the first Star Wars. And he's a ghost that's been dead for years.
And here's the thing. The way this dialogue is said, he's like, "I'm Spider-Man. No more." That's a really weird. Like, you could have just said, "No, I'm not."
Because that's the title of the comic.
I know, but it's just like it doesn't fit well in the dialogue.
Like they were actually going to call this movie not Spider-Man 2, but they originally were going to call it. Ironically, they were going to call this one The Amazing Spider-Man. Then when they decided not to call it that, they were going to call it Spider-Man No More. And then they decided, no, that's too wordy. Let's just call it 2.
And then, of course, you've got the classic trash can shot
from the comic, which is another good thing Raimi did. How there's a lot of like freeze frames or like comic covers or panels. Like the first movie did that a lot. Like a lot of those shots you give Jonah when Jonah's going to crap, mega crap. There's ASM 15's cover. There's the splash page from issue 50. And there's a few others there that are like almost directly out of like covers of Amazing Spider-Man.
And I love this montage here because, first of all, I love this song. I love it so much. I have it on my phone.
Hey, look, there's a McDonald's truck in the background. I know it's in Hawaii because that's the same truck that comes in real life here.
Got things done. Don't worry, I won't sing.
Because I don't sing the full song. We'll get copyrighted.
I know, copyright, but yeah. I love this song so much.
This is very much like he's Peter Parker again. That's why in Spider-Man 3, I was okay with him becoming the 70s disco dancer. Because he's doing that here when he's walking around in the class. He's becoming the dork that thinks he's Mr. Cool Guy. I feel like there's moments in here where you still see he's Peter Parker. Like he thinks life's better, but he's still tripping over himself. He's still having people stare at him. He's still losing his bike tire out the window, crashing, ruining somebody's car. He thinks life's perfect, but it's not because he's still Peter Parker deep down.
But he just doesn't have to be Spider-Man anymore.
You know, there's fan theories because one of those chairs is 121 and it's empty. That there was speculation that that's Gwen in the classroom in 3 and she was just not there that day because it's 121.
I never noticed that.
There's fan theories that that's Gwen's chair from 3, and she just wasn't in class that day, and 121 is the tip-off that it is. Foreshadowing 3. I go BS on that.
I never even noticed
that. I give them credit, but I don't think it was.
I've watched this movie like probably 100 times over the past 12 years, and I've never noticed that.
Like, there might be some truth to that, because remember, when she dies in ASM 2, the clock is at 121. And they planned that from the beginning. Like, Mark Webb said, when she dies, I want there to be a clock involved in it, just so it could be the time could be 121.
And here's my thing. How did MJ not get fired from this play after this? Because she literally went silent for
3.
Well, yeah, but like that's later on. How did she not get fired after this show?
Well, it's a play, so you get the sense that actors do flub their lines every once in a while. I mean, it's alive in front of an audience. An actor can forget their lines. Like, I'm sure it happens like maybe one. I'm sure out of 100 good shows, that was for one mistake. And here's more creepy Peter. She goes to the show and she's just having a night out with her friend who actually went to go see her show for a change. And then he's like all trying to impress her. And it's like, yeah, you do this like a day after I get engaged.
Yeah, it's like he literally asked her out and she's already engaged. And it's like, dude.
She's like, really, you didn't wait until somebody put a ring on that?
No one's told me you love me. I'm getting away before I thought I had to do. I don't have to. And
That
it's
is
too
very
late. Jesus Christ.
Things I thought I had to do, but I don't have to. But he does have to do them. Like, he doesn't understand that he has to. He's Spider-Man.
James, thank you for talking. Thank you for talking over the worst voice crack I've ever had in my life.
Okay. I thought you were going to talk about this dialogue of the scene, because literally every scene in this movie is the same topic. I want to be with you. I can't be. Then flip-flop. Now it's Peter saying it, and Mary Jane says, I can't be. Then it's flip-flopped again.
She's just like...
And they're both crying. It's like, looking back on this movie, I can see why people have a problem with scenes of this now. Because every scene they're in together, it's the same dialogue.
Yeah, it's like...
They're crying.
It's beyond formulaic.
This is very 80s soap opera. Like, you're expecting Peter's long-lost twin brother, Ben Reilly, to show up and try to steal her from him.
And here also comes one of my favorite scenes.
He's creepily smiling as the taxi drives away.
No, I'm talking about this Daily Bugle scene here.
No, I mean Peter right there. I never noticed that before, that when she drives away in the taxi, he puts the glasses on and starts going, eh. I do like how
you're the third guy this week.
But instead of a kid that Joe was like, you get a free copy of the Bugle. Here it's like a garbage man who's all like, no, you're paying me.
Nope. Thrown in the towel.
I love how he assumes if somebody walked into the Daily Bugle with a Spider-Man suit, wanting money for it because it's breaking news. Why? Okay, I'm trying to figure this out. Why would Jonah just assume that it's the real thing? You gotta think there's knockoff Spider-Man costumes of people dressed like Spider-Man for Halloween and stuff like that floating around there. Why doesn't Jonah just assume that's what it is?
You know, just looking at this scene here, and we see Bill Nunn as Robbie here, it is kind of a shame that Robbie didn't get more of a role in these movies, because I've always liked the character.
That's the problem with comic movies. It's not like a comic where you literally go decades with these characters. Here it is again, her singing the theme song. I told you she comes back again with it. Here's the whole thing where Sam Raimi said he really want to do this movie where like a lot of the transitions would be like covers of the Daily Bugle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, that's one of the problems. So like with movies, like the topic I was bringing up before, is that in a lot of movies, it's very, very, very hard to have characters who've literally been in comics for decades to get flushed out and put them in a 2-hour, 3-hour movie. There's always going to be somebody who in the comics that just gets relevant. It's just a cameo or maybe one scene or two. And with this franchise, it's like Betty, Flash, and Robbie, who are the ones that are completely like almost, I don't want to say useless because they have Flash was useless after high school, but they weren't like, they were there and they were fleshed out a little bit, but they weren't important in the story. You could have done this whole movie without them, and it would have went the same way.
And this right here is just, this scene coming up is one of probably Toby's best in the entire film.
Where he basically admits that it's his fault for Ben's death.
And he just talks to the camera for basically 2 minutes straight. They don't take it off of him at any point. They just...
And this is the weird thing, because it's not just the Parker guilt coming over him when he says it, and then Aunt May saying it's okay, you were just a teenager at the time, I don't blame you. Like,
she storms out.
She walks out, because that's realistic.
I mean, you got to imagine that Peter just left this place.
And it's handled a lot better because they'll bring it up. They kind of did handle it in the comics. Remember when Betty got attacked because of something that happened in the Venom issue, and the tie-in in Amazing Spider-Man because of what happened because Flash was Venom. And of course, it's the Parker guilt, the twist. Peter thinks it's his fault for being Spider-Man and his friend got hurt, but really it's because Flash was Venom, and he doesn't understand. He doesn't get that because Flash's secret identity. But Aunt May is like on the phone with him. He's like, "This is all your fault, Peter. Like it was with Uncle Ben. You weren't there for me." And it's like a 15-year-old boy's uncle got shot and killed, and he ran out of the house.
That was out of character, Aunt May, though. That's like,
but she basically says every death is your fault because you run away from them.
But yeah, that was out of character, though. She's had a lot of moments in the comics where she's been like, "No, Peter, it's not your fault. You were 15 years old. What could I have expected you to do but run away?" Like she even says that in the JMS issue where he finally, where they talk about him being Spider-Man finally.
I remember because bringing up a different podcast. There's one of the guys on there who literally rage quit the podcast over that issue. Because that is bad. Because that was too out of care for Aunt May. You should have been there for me when Uncle Ben died, but you ran away. That should be something that Peter thinks in his head that she reassures him is not true.
But yeah, they handle it so much better here with like she
just walks away, and it's not because she's ashamed of him. It's because she just bad memories are going back.
Yeah, it's just like he's just brought up probably one of the most traumatic moments in this woman's life.
And I do like how he tells her, but he doesn't really, because he doesn't mention, "Oh yeah, I was off being Spider-Man in a wrestling ring."
Yeah.
He just says, "I was being irresponsible. Uncle Ben went to go pick me up. We got in a fight, and because of that, he got shot."
Just the raw emotion right here. It's just like she stands up.
She takes the hand away too when he goes to go grab her hand. And she moves it away. But I like this scene too because it's supposed to be like he thinks everything's gonna be perfect now because he's no longer Spider-Man. But it will never be perfect after he got bit by the spider. He's in denial. He thinks he can just go and say, "Hey, it's my fault, Aunt May. Hey, Harry, it's my fault. Hey, MJ, it's my fault." And he doesn't get that these are real problems. Norman Osborn and Uncle Ben are dead. Where did he get did they ever explain, okay, I know he was building stuff and that's where he gets the money from, but it's just so coincidental that he just happened to be able to find all the parts he needed on eBay.
I love how Harry's desk is just covered with Spider-Man stuff.
I like how there is the covers I've been talking about from the first movie, how you see ASM 15 and stuff like that.
Good night, Bernard. Hey, Bernard, you have anything you want to tell me about my father?
He can literally say this right now. Literally, next year this time, let's do Spider-Man 3's commentary just so we can finally tell off Bernard here.
It's like, hey,
which
Bernard,
I think they introduced him in the comics too after Harry came back. Like he mentioned that either the limo driver, the chauffeur, or the butler at his house is Bernard because he says, "Go home, Bernard," or something like that when they're talking to him.
It's like, Bernard, do you have anything you want to tell me? No, sir, not till the end of the next movie. Dang it.
The writers haven't come up with it yet.
This always used to make me jump as a kid. Like I always kind of got scared at this part when the arm just comes right over the ledge.
Well, there's a lot of that too in these Raimi movies. Like I said before, Raimi is a horror director first, so there's a lot of jump scares in these movies.
And I love how
Spider-Man 1, there's one that always makes me jump is when Harry and Norman hug after Harry sees Peter and MJ hug each other at the Aunt May's, hospital room. Which, granted, Harry kind of jumped to conclusion because she just saw her sweet old neighbor in the hospital bed, and that's the nephew, your best friend. They're hugging. Chances are she's just consoling him because of his aunt being in the hospital. It doesn't have anything romantic going on there. But Harry immediately jumps to, she loves Peter. And then Norman hugs him, and then there's a jump scare as the Goblin Mask just comes at the screen. Like, that part still gets me to this day.
Parker? Make him tell you where he is. Oh, great. Way to sell out your best friend, Harry.
But you just don't hurt him.
Well, even still, I mean, he just sold out his best friend to a supervillain.
Yeah, say that when he's already in the other building, Harry.
Crime up 75%. I kind of struggle to believe that.
This is the guilt now getting him in a different direction. I do like the twist here that it's falling apart for him. That he realizes right now. Oh, I just like that moment. How this is him coming to realization that, because now the guilt's on the other side of the foot. He's not feeling guilty because he's not there for Aunt May. He still has the problems with Harry. He still has the problems with Aunt May. He still has the problems with Mary Jane. He still has the work problems. He still has all of those stuff. And now he has the extra guilt of, you could save these people. You could have stopped that mugger. You could have stopped this going on. The crime rate that's rising, you could have stopped. And there's again calling back to the first movie again with the fire scene.
And with the child trapped inside.
And another thing about this scene, not the scene, but I find it funny that Jonah actually prints that crime is going up without Spider-Man, because Jonah in the comics would just go like, take the arrows and like flip them upside down, and they would say that crime went down with no Spider-Man.
Because Spider-Man's not there, so they have no reason to act out.
Or no, there's no crime because he's not committing them. That seems like very much so like Robbie like got one over on Jonah. Like, I'm gonna put the front page headline about this, Jonah. Okay. And then Jonah realized like after it was already on the presses what it was.
That's got.
I do like this that he's finally like he wasn't able to do all this stuff earlier when he first came to the building to help people. But saving the little girl, it's finally sparking the powers in him. He's able to like make huge leaps and throw her like a rag doll.
Yeah, he just throws the child up there. I mean, like.
And then, okay, this I get it's cheesy. How she pulls him up. Really? The little girl pulls you up. The little 4-year-old girl pulls him up. That is bullshit. I call that. Now she's not even there. It's clearly a doll. Until this part where it now grows 5 sizes.
You got some guts, kid.
And of course, this is the downer scene. It's very Peter Parker also. They're congratulating him, but then the other guy says, yeah, but other people are dead. The guy who jumped into the burning building to help people, you say that in front of him. Yeah, he saved the little girl, but 5 other people were dead. So technically, you only saved 1 out of 6. Bye.
I love how he's just like standing by his window, just talking to himself.
Well, like I said, this is very much him realizing now he's having the guilt in the reverse. Now he's thinking, I should have never gave up being Spider-Man. And then here's Ursula, who literally was a useless character who they threw in for no other reason.
I guess for comedic effect of, hey, this girl who may or may not
has a crush on him. Really, Steve Rogers in Captain America 1 doesn't have as skinny as a body as she does. She looks like she needs to eat a cracker like right away.
Well, she's about to eat cake, so...
Good. She needs food. And I think that I remember there was like a rumor on some website when she got cast because she's a blonde actress. They're like, oh my god, Queen in Spider-Man 2 is confirmed.
It's like, no, it's this random character.
Random Russian chick who you never see again. Like, she's completely random and useless, but on the DVD they did a documentary about all the girlfriends Peter Parker in the comics that had over the years, and they threw her in there. a character who's only in the movies for 3 scenes, and she has cake in one of them. And they threw her in the Many Loves of Spider-Man documentary. Really? Really? Were you hoping to give her a spin-off movie, The Amazing Ursula or something? And here's something that surprisingly has happened a few times in the comics, only for new writers to come in and say, no, that never happened. Aunt May moving out of the Parker house. Like, how many times has she moved out of the Parker house only to be back in there with very little reasoning as to why?
Once.
You get the Civil War transition, obviously. Marvel Knights. But Marvel Knights is filled with a lot of continuity. What the fucks?
I like how she's just like,
every time that her and Anna Watson moved in together. Her
I like
and the
how
boarding houses.
I like how she's just like, hey, yeah, that thing that you told me last time that completely crushed me and made me like.
I got over it.
Yeah, I got over it.
But this is the Aunt May scene.
Yeah,
she goes, I love you, Peter, because you came to me and told me, and I know you love Ben, and you. It was overwhelming because I just missed him so much. But I knew you loved him, and he loved you, and I love you too. And it took a lot of courage for you to finally come up to me and tell me the truth about what happened to him, because I know it must have been hard for you too. That's Aunt May.
Hey, where are all my comic books? Self-referential humor. Get it? Ha 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 ha.
It's the same that people always say what happens to their comic books. Their moms throw them away on them. Even though my mom has never once threw away one of my comics because her and my dad grew up with my grandmothers and grandfathers throwing out their comic books, so they were like never throwing out mine. Because as they put it, they could have been billionaires by now, they think. Literally, my dad had like the first 10 years of Fantastic Four. And he only has a few of them left, but he gave them to my uncle. Like, they're still downstairs in the basement, and like every day my dad's like, I'm going to ask your uncle when I go down back at like my aunt's house. They're still in the basement there. I'm going to ask him, can I have the comics back so I can give them to you?
I love this speech that Aunt May gives right here. Some examples for all of us? Everybody loves a hero. People line up.
Which was in the trailers.
They stood in the rain for hours.
Like, they edited this line and in a later line where she's like, they just have to give up the thing they want the most. So it comes out, it goes, I believe there's a hero in all of us. We all need a hero. I believe there's a hero in all of us. We just have to give up the things we want the most.
Sometimes we...
I like pride, like your Uncle Ben, who you like gets shot. I'm not getting over that, Peter. I thought I could, but I can't. Fuck you, get out of my house.
But Aunt May, I'm actually in the backyard. I'm already out of your house.
Get off my property.
He needs him.
I like this because it's very clear Aunt May doesn't know he's Spider-Man, but yet the talk is like she's talking to Spider-Man. She doesn't realize it. She's just using Spider-Man for a metaphor for Peter to get his shit together. And she doesn't, like, she thinks she's using it as a metaphor, but she's not. But Peter knows she's not really. And here, again, let's repeat the first movie. Like, I do admit that there's a lot of things in here who are just like, let's repeat the first movie, but with a twist.
Oh yeah. It's like, it's completely obvious.
Like, even 3 to a point does that.
Yeah.
There's some scenes like the upside down kiss and stuff like that they do that.
And the wedding, like that Peter and Mary Jane lay on.
Oh yeah, because all it calls back to 2.
Yeah.
His face as he's running with the glasses.
Woo-hoo! I'm back!
I do like his lines here. I'm back. He falls and lands on his back, and he goes, my back.
Yeah.
It is very funny.
I
And
never
again,
even
I
know.
wouldn't be surprised if this is really like Tobey Maguire falling from a great height and hitting a wall because, as they put it, Raimi loves to torture his actors.
And and like a little behind the scenes trivia, Tobey Maguire actually almost didn't do this movie because he injured his back. He actually injured his back doing another movie, but he got better in time to do this. Yeah, he got better in time
I
to do
even
this
heard
one.
that this scene was put in there as a joke about it.
Yeah, that's what I heard as well.
That this was explain why he might be walking around with back problems in some scenes. But because this comes so late in the movie, I really doubt that.
Peter Parker?
This is the one scene where they repeat the first movie where I'm okay with it because it's not really much of an upside down kiss because she doesn't understand that it's Spider-Man and Peter and stuff like that, and it's just him laying on a couch upside down kiss. So I'm okay with this one. It's the later ones where it's like almost the same sets and dialogue and everything. Well, Mary Jane, you don't want to invite Peter to your wedding. It almost seems like current comic book Mary Jane. Now, this scene's kind of weird because it's pretty clear here, even though the first movie hints that she might know, it's very clear with other scenes in the movie that she doesn't know.
Well, no,
but when she goes to get the upside down kiss John Jameson right here, and she realizes it's not the same spark, you kind of get a sense, does she know?
Yeah, it's like I think she's like trying to test it out or something. I don't.
Or does she think John's Spider-Man?
No,
and
I know
she realizes from the kiss it's not him. I don't know.
No, she knows that it's not. I know she knows that it's not John, but
why? Because he was up on the moon when the first movie happened, or something like that, probably. Which is weird because according to these movies, we are still doing moon landings in 2004 because they make a reference to how he was the first astronaut to play football on the moon. Which made me really wish that there was a later on scene when Peter's walking down the street, all of a sudden a little meteorite strikes and hits on the buildings. It's John Jameson's football coming back down from her. It's like Armageddon. This big asteroid's heading, but then you find out it's just John Jameson's football and it breaks a window.
Oh, so that's where it went.
Here it is again. There's repeating the dialogue again. Now it's her saying she wants him, and him saying he doesn't want to be with her.
Literally, it's beyond formulaic. Oh my god, I've been watching so much of this, I'm repeating my own dialogue.
Spider-Man's the only one with information for Otto. He was told not to hurt Peter. So he throws a car at him.
Well, we're not at that part yet, James. Slow down, buddy.
Well, I'm skipping this dialogue where it's again rinse and repeat. Even with the slow-mo. Do you love me as I go in to kiss you? John, I love this movie and there's stuff I really like about it, but this Mary Jane and Peter scenes I just can't stand.
I love this movie as well. Like, don't get the wrong idea, people. We love this movie. We really do.
We love this movie. We just don't like this dialogue. Like I said, this is very melodramatic soap opera.
Do you love me or not? That's a question. That's a question. It's like, there is one right answer to that, Peter. There is one right answer.
I do also like right here how you notice scars on his face. Like, I almost wonder, like, is that makeup or is that, like, really scars that Toby had? Because it really fits that if he's been Spider-Man for a while, he would get cuts and stuff like that.
Yes, Peter, it's a pretty basic concept. Like, kissing is a very simple act.
He asks her back. It's like a week ago movie, and now she's like, "What the fuck's going on here?"
Peter, kissing is very simple. Like, it's not difficult, not even slightly.
He's acting like a 5-year-old who's getting a kiss from his crotch. Spider sense with obvious green screen.
You know, here's the thing, and a lot of people have pointed this out. If Peter Parker is the only guy who knows where Spider-Man is, I think maybe potentially killing him by throwing a car at him isn't the best idea. Like,
that's the one BS people have with this movie where they call bullshit at that I agree with. Like, even when I watched this movie as 14, I was like,
It's like, dude.
Okay, what's going on there? That makes no sense.
It's like, dude, you could have planned that better.
Because it doesn't, because you threw a car at him.
What makes you think he's going to cooperate?
How did he even know that him and Emily were there? Did he post on Facebook, I'm going to the coffee shop to meet Mary Jane?
No, he posted
I don't think. No,
he posted it on MySpace or whatever, probably. Was MySpace?
I don't think it was invented yet.
Oh my God, I'm old.
This is 2004, John. YouTube wasn't even around. YouTube 2005. It was a year later.
Oh my God, we're going into pre-YouTube history here, people.
That shows the age of this movie, doesn't it? It makes both of us feel old. Like, I remember being 13, 14 years old, seeing this at the movie theater opening day, getting out of school.
I was 7 when I saw this movie.
And another thing I like what they did with this movie and 3, they just dyed her hair a natural-looking redhead, and it wasn't the obvious dark red wig she had in the first movie.
Hello, obvious CGI and obvious green screen that is obvious.
Like blurry Mary Jane right here?
Yeah.
Because that was like the early CGI trick. If we make the person blurry, you can't notice that they're not really them. But you can because they're blurry when everybody else is focused. Like, go and watch the Star Wars movie, Episode 2, that came out the same year, and it's amazing. Like, people say the CGI in that movie doesn't hold up. I think it's better than this movie. This movie had a lot more practical effects, but, like, CGI people's bodies that do Jedi stuff was a lot more better than some of the stuff Otto does here when he picks up people.
Spider-Man has returned. He's got the powers back.
In the back of him just doing dramatic close-up. This is one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. It's Jonah finally coming to the realization that Spider-Man's the hero until he steals back his own costume.
He's the only one who could have stopped Octavius. Yes. Spider-Man was a hero.
Here's another thing about the scene. I love it how Jonah just like hangs it up like it's a poster of his favorite boy band with just thumbtacks on the wall. We're in the comics. He put it like in this display. Remember, he put it like in this big
display case.
And in here, it's like he has the poster for the Jonas Brothers.
I love this visual too of him breaking through the newspaper.
Well, like they said, that's the main reason why they wanted transitions to be the newspaper, because they wanted that shot later on where he'll break through it. And I like this too, how you think he's web swinging into the building, and then you realize it's just a reflection in Doc's glasses.
Yeah.
That was when you saw it in the theaters, me and like everybody who was in there was like, whoa.
And here we are, this scene right here on this clock tower and on the train that's coming up is probably the best action scene I have ever seen in a superhero film.
It's close. If it's not number 1, I can't think of anything else better than it. But if it's not, like, I might go back and say, I like something better than 4 or Iron Man or something like that. But as of right now, I can't think of any.
The only rival that I have for this scene is from Captain America: The Winter Soldier with Cap and Bucky on the highway. That's the only thing that even slightly rivals this, I think.
The only one that I think it gets close, obvious CG Doc again.
Obvious CG Spider-Man.
Yeah, the only one for this movie, the only one I can think of is Civil War, the fight in the airport, but that's just nostalgia seeing like almost every Marvel superhero trying to kill each other. Not because of the actual great action scene, but just because of the novelty of here's Spider-Man fighting Cap, and here's Ant-Man fighting Iron Man and stuff like that.
Where it's just like, this is just like the choreography and everything. It's so well done. I wanted to call it
choreography because they're like both CG and like almost all of this.
Well, yeah, but I mean, still.
Like the extended director's cut, or you want to call it, where like they said that was the best thing about the scene being mostly CG anyways, is that extending this fight was easy because they just had to take the CGI models they already had for the shot and just make it longer.
And in the extended version of this scene, there in the Spider-Man 2.1, which is the cut of the movie that's 8 minutes longer, there's a scene where Spider-Man gets hit by another oncoming train and literally just swings right back into action and badass.
And the behind the scenes of that is really cool. How they took a shot from Doc Ock from over the shoulder from an earlier shot when he's perched, looking down a building at Spider-Man, and they took that and they're just how they edited that so it looks like it fit perfectly now with Peter getting hit by the train.
Yeah, I mean it's just so good. And of course, Danny Elfman's score doing a lot to help.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned that yet, but I love his. Danny Elfman scored 2 comic book franchises, and like when you think those characters, you think his music. When you hear his Batman scores and his Batman movies, it's him. And when you hear the Spider-Man scores, that's Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's like Danny Elfman's score. I think what he really does well is mixing the music or mixing the score with the tone of the movie and especially the mood of each individual scene. I think he does that really well.
For people who don't know who Danny Elfman is, let me go for a quick little summary of a lot of his movies. You know every Tim Burton movie? Well, congratulations, he did the soundtrack for every one of those, including the first 2 Batman movies, so the 89 theme song of everybody hears when you're Batman. That was him. He did the Spider-Man movie, but also another pop culture reference that you might not know, he did The Simpsons. He's the music guy in The Simpsons.
This is another time where taking the mask off kind of makes sense because he just got
burned.
burned.
It burned his face.
Yeah, it just got burnt.
And again, this is kind of repeating the first movie where you had the people on the bridge throwing the trash at Doc Ock. I mean, at Goblin, and now it's them all like crucifying Jesus, carrying him away as he's knocked out at the end of the scene.
But
he's holding on like he's on like Superman in the new Superman movie. It's got a lot of I am Jesus moments. Peter gets that here too, where when he's holding on the webs to stop the train, he's like in a cross. And then they carry him like he's dead Jesus to be taken off the cross. Like that's very biblical with Spider-Man.
But I love this. This is my favorite scene of the entire trilogy. Him stopping this train. I love this.
Which, spoilers, that doesn't exist in New York. So
this doesn't actually happen. But
in fact, I went on the 8th grade trip like 6 months later after this movie came out. Well, actually, we were like 12 months later. And when we were driving by Chicago, there was trains on like, because I was so trained, but there was like an area where they had some of them, and there was a banner over them that said, "As seen in Spider-Man 2."
Yeah, I love this scene so much. It's just like Spider-Man pushing himself.
This is a very I am Jesus moment with that constipated fart look on his face.
I mean, you could just tell he's pushing himself to the absolute limit. He's screaming at the top of his lungs.
Yeah, but look at his face.
Makes sense.
Look at him. He's like he's trying to get him poop out.
Way to go, James.
He's an amazing constipated man.
Most mature podcast on YouTube.
John, he's like this. CGI Peter Parker's dog is CGI again.
Yep. Man, look at those teeth. Perfectly white.
Look, he still looks constipated.
And of course.
And now he looks like he finally got the poop out.
The most mature podcast ever.
But look at they carry him like Jesus off the cross. This is very weird how they win an I am Jesus moment with Spider-Man. Like Scott Snyder's Superman movies, yeah, I get it. Spider-Man? Like, he died for our sins.
He's just unconscious, people.
He died for us to be able to get where we're going to in New York in a subway that doesn't really exist in New York.
He's just a kid. Older than my son.
Which again is a very Spider-Man like line. Is that everybody says, even after Peter's now pushing 30s in the comic, if he gets demasked to someone, they're always like, wait, you're just a kid.
I love how he puts his hand on his face and you see he's just like, oh my God, where's the mask?
And then the kids who are actually, like, I forgot, are they actually Toby's kids or they're his brothers? Like, they're related to him. I know that. Because they bring that up in the commentary that they're related to him.
No, they're not. They're not Toby's kids. I don't think Toby had any kids at this point in his life.
So they're his brothers or cousins or something like that. Because I know they're related to him. Because I know he wanted it to be them that gave him the mask as their cameo.
Because I know, I think, are Raimi's kids in this movie or the Spider-Man 3?
They're in this movie. No, wait, they're in one. Because it's his wife and his kids on the school bus scene when Peter's chasing it at the beginning. It's her walking her kids in that shot in the background. It's Raimi's wife walking the kids in the background.
And then, of course, Doc Ock comes in and this is one of the most awesome Doc Ock moments of the whole movie.
Like the special features, that was like their thing for it. Here's the guy from The Sopranos. Can't think of his name right now.
I never watched that show, so.
But back in that blonde lady is a stunt double. In fact, she was the stunt double for the Pink Ranger in the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
I just love how he just literally pushes them all to the side. Some of them are like falling out the window. It's like, that's
yeah, awesome. I do like how they're all like, you're going to have to get through me. He's got metal arms that slaughtered a bunch of doctors, people.
No, it's just like, you have to go through me. And he just has a smirk on his face. He's like, all right.
Boom. I love the transition there, how it goes for the spider load up. I love how Harry's just waiting. Like, did Doc call ahead of time? Like, hey, I'm on the way with Spider-Man. Okay.
Hey, got Spidey. Be there in 10.
I love how he's wrapped in barbed wire.
Of course, the safe behind the painting. The classic cliche.
And the painting is, of course, the painting from Norman from the first movie.
And I love how it's just like he just has tritium in his house.
Well, you got a sense that probably somebody told Harry to lock it up with Otto coming and searching for shit like that.
Or maybe he
stuff away from the office with Harry, make sure you lock that shit up.
Or maybe he had it sent there and just like he was like, yeah, I'm not gonna tell you why, but I need tritium, like right now. Why do you need it, Harry? And this scene right here, of course.
It's the perfect ingredient in the most awesome cocktail I'm inventing.
Cause you the pain that you've caused me.
This is very Shakespearean with the dagger and everything. But I do love how they did the effect with the barbed wire, how he breaks it right away. So that way, it can't just be the fact of him saying, oh, you dressed up like Spider-Man and say Mary Jane, like they do in the comics every once in a while. This was him showing, I got the spider strength. I am him.
When that happens. Now, where is he? Peter. That's what you're thinking about right now?
Well, that is realistic, because you're confronting the man who you think murdered your father. Right now, that's all you're thinking about is that they killed the person who raised you, John. It actually is very realistic. Peter here is where he doesn't say, no, I didn't kill your father. You could have just passed out. I tried to save him from the Green Goblin. And Harry would be like, okay. And the story, that makes sense. He instead says, Harry, there's more important things than that going on, which is true. But he could have just said, Harry, I didn't kill your father. Quickly, I didn't kill your father. I tried to save him. And Harry might have believed you because he knows that you would never hurt him. Instead, he says, there are bigger things than me and you. I do love the touch here. How even though he tells her he's dead, he's smirking as he knows that he's there.
Yeah, he's just like, you can tell he's just right like here. Sensing it.
That is very Doc Ock from the comics. Oh, hi, what brings you to this side of the neighborhood?
No, Osborn wouldn't have the spine to finish you. Jerk.
Like, see, that's a Doc Ock line. It's a risk I'm willing to take.
Yeah.
When he was just told you're going to blow up the city with this.
I don't care. I have to make my renewable energy source.
It's when you get to later on when Peter talks him out of it. Oh, and I also like the little touch how it says that it's Pier 63. Otto's first appearance was in 1963.
Oh yeah, I never noticed that. I just have to punch this guy one more time. Then I'll get up there to save you from being vaporized.
That's another thing that they never touch upon with Mary Jane. How does he know her name, Spider-Man? She never wonders how, even in the first movie, he knows her name. Because that's what she says, who are you to him? And he goes, I'm your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. She never puts two together that it must be somebody who she knows. And then here's the whole kind of, we have to make the girl look like that she can take care of herself, and yet he completely just bats her away like she's a fly.
Boom! Spider-Man's Tangled Web Show does not.
That's with the badass. Like, she doesn't need to be saved. She can take care of herself, even though she really does need to be saved.
Spider-Man's
gets electrocuted.
Spider-Man's Tangled Web Show does not endorse violence against women.
Well, of course we don't. We're not douches. I love this, like, oh shit moment Peter has.
Yeah, Peter's just like, are you kidding me? Peter's just like, oh my god, what now?
Like, he says, now what? If this was Tom Holland's Spider-Man, it would have been a no shit. Like it was when Ant-Man grew the Giant Man.
Shit.
Which still, in that movie Civil War, just to bring it up a little bit right now, this is a very cliche too in the superhero movies. When the city's getting destroyed, you get a shot of the street. They did that in Batman and Robin and stuff like that. But like I still to this day believe that James Cameron was sitting in an audience somewhere watching Civil War, and then when he heard Peter say, "Oh shit," he's like, "Peter, swear in a movie, like in my script. I was right. He swore. He swore." He starts yelling at the top of his lungs in the movie theater. Everybody's telling him to shut up. And here's James Cameron just going, "Spider-Man swore. Now get laid in a wedding with a teenage girl, and it's gonna be complete like I read it."
I love this scene between Peter and Doc Ock.
I like it. It's just I don't like how they make him the sympathetic villain here. He's Doc Ock.
I gotta tell you.
They should have just explained that this is all you. The arms are controlling you. This is all in your own head. Like, you can tie it into Peter's. But no, they just do the whole, you remember you told me how awesome mankind is and how we should do stuff to help it with science and it's a privilege? Yeah. Well, these arms are controlling you. Tell them to stop. Stop. Okay. They stopped.
It was my dream. See these quotable lines from Aunt May, you know, because Aunt May is actually a smart, competent character in this movie.
Can you imagine if it was comic book Aunt May? He had to say something there. He's like, "It was my dream. You should always give up your dreams and just live a quiet life and get married instead of now. My wife's dead. That's because she didn't wear a sweater in the winter." Lord, that would be comic book Aunt May's lines there.
Listen to me now. Boom. I gotta tell you, Peter has impressive stamina to hold his breath that long.
Well, he does have the portion strength of a spider.
I know. River. Drown it. I just love that moment where he grabs him and he just looks back like, "What the hell, dude? I'm going to save your problem." Like, "I'll do it."
I do like it though how it's like Peter thinks, "What the hell? Like, aren't you listening to me?" Like he's like, "Really? You're going to still try to stop me?"
And then they look at each other. And
actual good CGI and green screen. Not that shot with Toby, but the one with Doc Ock is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I like this.
And then you got this moment. Oh my god, I forgot this in the movie. The awkward stare they both give each other.
She's just like, It all makes sense now. This okay,
that.
no,
It's
this,
more of a. Oh,
I've been watching this movie for 12 years. All right, this
oh
scene
God
right
moment.
here. That scene.
And then the Toby face that everybody makes fun of.
The
When
Toby
people make
face.
fun of Toby's portrayal of Spider-Man, that's the shot they use.
That
And yes,
Toby
as a
face.
14-year-old boy, I did like that you see Kirsten Dunst's underwear for a split second there when she falls down.
That Toby face right there. I've been watching this movie for 12 years. 12 years I've been watching this movie, and it's still funny.
Like, whenever people make fun of Toby, the shot they use are either him dancing in Spider-Man 3 with the emo haircut, or that scream.
Just that is hilarious.
Or him crying in 3 when they're breaking up. They use that one too.
Like, I don't know if that was supposed to be funny, but it's really funny.
It's not. It's supposed to be dramatic because you're screaming no. Because you think it's the same thing that happened to it's like, it's poetry. The same thing that happened to Otto's wife is now happening to her.
Mary Jane, you do love me. I do.
There's more important things here, Mary Jane.
Even though you said you didn't.
In the past of it's my father's murderer. This is you wondering if the guy who you thought had a crush on you really does have a crush on you.
And this, what he lifts up the wall.
I still wish, because with them killing off Doc Ock in this movie, I still wish what they should have done was have a shot at the ending of the water and you see a tentacle pop up, meaning he's still alive.
Yeah, because that is the unfortunate part about the Raimi trilogy is they tended to throw their villains out at the end of the movie. Goblin, Doc Ock.
They throw them out, but they don't never have Spider-Man killed because Spider-Man doesn't kill. So it always has to be they kill themselves in some way.
Yeah. Either voluntarily, such as in Doc Ock's case, or involuntarily.
The only one who doesn't die is Sandman. And he's the one who probably should have because he killed Uncle Ben.
I forgive you. Okay, I'm just gonna drift off now.
He still is wanted for murder and robberies, Peter. You maybe didn't kill your Uncle Ben on purpose, but it's still manslaughter because he stole a car.
This scene right here. Man will always have enemies. I can't let you take that risk.
Always have enemies. Some of them sparkle. Some of them are lizardmen. Some of them are Harry's dad.
Some of them are birdmen who are now becoming vultures.
Some of them are crazy mad scientists who like to clone me and Gwen Stacy.
And this one time I fought a guy named Steve. He's from Brooklyn.
And then other times there would be this guy from another dimension who's like a vampire who eats spider guys. And he just starts naming off his whole rogues gallery. There's rhinos, there's scorpions, there's spider slayers.
Marla Jameson. We always have to remember that Marla Jameson created Spider Slayers.
Oh, that's a Janet Slaughter this movie. They would name drop that Marla Madison is Jonah's wife in this movie, and then have her have Spider Slayers, even though there's no context to this movie continuity whatsoever.
Mary Jane, what are you doing up there? And what exactly was lowering you down?
Speculate that this was proof that he was supposed to be Man-Wolf in a later sequel when he came back from the moon, because he makes that leap and it's CG and it's a little bit too big of a leap for a normal man to make. People speculate that the engagement ring was going to be the Moonstone, and it was symbolized he's going to be Man-Wolf in the later sequel. That he has the super strength to jump one foot down there. I think it's just they didn't want a real actor doing that. They didn't have a stunt double, so they just CGI'd it. And it looked crackly. But there's actually speculation that the engagement ring is the Moonstone, and he's slowly turning into Man-Wolf.
Where do you find this stuff, James? I've never heard any of this.
This has been around for years. It's like going back OG internet in 2004, John. There was speculation about Spider-Man 3 and where they were going to go with Man-Wolf and Green Goblin 2 being the villains. Because of what was set up here. Because John now had a reason to come after Spider-Man as and he took his girl.
And of course, you get the creepy Willem Dafoe laughing.
This was unexpected. This is so like literally the comics did this when Norman was dead too, or the ghost of Norman went on Harry. But this came out of nowhere when you were seeing this movie theater. All you see is Harry back at the house, and then you start to see the door opening, like the cracks, like it was in the first movie. You start to hear the goblin laugh, and then all of a sudden you hear son, I'm here, and it's him in the mirror again, like the first movie. The audience had a gasp of, because nobody knew that Defoe was there. There was no set leaks. There was nothing that told you that Defoe was on the set of Spider-Man 2. Because normally, after a villain's killed off in a superhero movie, they don't come back for the sequel, the actor. Because they're way too much money to bring back in for one scene. Defoe not only came back here, but he came back for 3.
Avenge me!
But this does kind of confuse me. Because this is very much the goblin psyche from Norman in the first movie, affecting Harry now. But it's like, is it the ghost of Norman? Or is it just what happened that Harry has the same psychosis that Norman had, even before he knew his dad was the goblin? It's not like he already knows that Norman's the goblin, because he just finds out now.
I remember
so
that.
The ghost of Norman?
That scene with the goblin mask popping up, that always made me jump as a kid.
That made me jump as a kid, but more of a, they're setting up 3. Like, you never saw this with superhero movies where they set up the next movie. You knew when this happened, they were setting up Spider-Man 3. And whether it was a disappointment or not, which eventually got with Harry in Spider-Man 3, this was a big deal because you never saw superhero movies set up a sequel. This is pre-Iron Man with the end credit scenes. If this was nowadays, this would have been the end credit scene.
Oh, yeah, that would have been a post-credit scene, easily.
Like, you never got that back then, that there was foreshadowing for a sequel. And here's, I guess, Marla Madison, you know, because that's Jonah's wife, but they never name drop her, but I guess it's Marla?
I guess maybe it's Joan, I don't know.
Because it's not her mother from the first movie. Because they make reference that her parents were either not invited or they didn't show.
Hey, Harry. Yeah.
And he has the green tie. Everybody loved that also. I love that. I know people that love the theater love that too. Then when he turns around at the wedding, he's the only one there with a green tie. Jonah right here cracks up every time I see this. When he's just like, we're waiting.
We are waiting. My time is...
Nobody made speculations about this, but my own headcanon is this girl who gives her the note. You know, you find out a deleted scene that she's like Mary Jane's best friend, who's like another model and actress that are in deleted scenes in the extended cut. But so she's like the main bridesmaid, or whatever that's called, the maid of honor.
Maid of honor.
But yeah, like this look he has right here when he's mad. You know, I can see why people thought that it was setting up him being Man-Wolf in 3. People think it's a Frank Castle cameo here because Sony has the Punisher. You think that's Frank Castle, the guy right there?
No.
With the she runs by.
No.
Because there are people who swear that that's Frank Castle.
Yeah, it's not.
And here comes the biggest missed opportunity in the movie.
Yeah, James, you have a problem with this scene.
Well, she's at the door. Why doesn't she stay face the tire? You hit the jackpot. In the comic adaptation, the novelization, she does.
And of course, we get more cheesy Peter MJ dialogue because
she says, "I'm standing here at your doorway, and I was waiting in the theater for face to tire you at the jackpot." She never said it. But also going to the point when you first didn't know who the maid of honor was and she runs there, I like to pretend that remember the girlfriend the fiance that John had in the comics, the blonde chick in the 70s. I like to just pretend that that's her, and that John ended up getting with her after this movie, and that explains why he's not in 3, or even mentioned 3. That he just got married to the other chick and then lived happy ever after somewhere.
I love how I love how she's run away from her wedding. She's standing there in a wedding dress, and he still tries to turn her away. It's just like, Peter, come on.
Which again, Peter would do that in the comics. I can't, the whole "I can't be with you, I'm Spider-Man." But at least now it makes sense that he's outright saying it's not because like before he was like, "I can't be with you." Why? Reasons. Now he actually can tell what the reason is. And this is her making the choice. Like, this is my choice. I don't care. I want to be with you. I'm not, and I promise not to bitch at you one day if we ever break up about your secret identity to Tony Stark.
Ew, James, they're kissing.
Really, John? Out of all the cheesy dialogue, that's the problem you have with it, is the fact that they make out at the end.
I'm kidding.
She should have said face the tire, hit the jackpot. I'm sorry, that's my biggest gripe with this last scene. She should have said face the tire, hit the jackpot.
And the final swing.
Again, repeating the first movie. Which I'm happy that 3 didn't do this. That 3 just ended with them dancing.
Really? Because I kind of thought the final swing was kind of a tradition.
No, it's not in 3. 3 just ends with them dancing.
Well, I know it's not in 3, but that's why I was kind of disappointed that it didn't end with one. I was like, yeah, the final swing, it's kind of a tradition, you know? And of course, you got like 3 American flags.
I do like how this makes sense now with 3, but why everybody complains about Spider-Man now being loved in New York in 3. He just stayed their asses twice now.
Yeah. And Mary Jane says that, or doesn't say anything. She just stares out the window.
I love how the comic they bring it up. That they said that's also foreshadowing for 3, because it was like she accepts it, but you see that there's worry on her face and she sees the trouble ahead.
Yeah. All right, well, that was Spider-Man 2. I mean, final thoughts, James?
I like it. I feel like there's problems I have with it. Like, there are, like, we ranted about the bad CGI now, but that's like complaining about bad special effects in a movie from the 60s or 70s. You gotta expect the time period. I love the soundtrack too. I love the song. This whole soundtrack, I had this CD for all 3 movies, and all 3 movies I thought had the most best soundtrack ever. Like, almost every song from the Raimi trilogy soundtrack is on my Spotify or my MP3 or whatever.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a great movie. I think we've made that clear multiple times. I mean, we've kind of made fun of it a little bit, but it's a fun movie. We both really enjoy it. It's very well done. So yeah, I mean,
I love this movie. Like, there's some cheesy moments, like the little girl holding him up, and every dialogue that Peter and MJ have together, and the Tobey Maguire faces that he does. There are problems with this movie. Nothing's perfect, but there's a reason why at this time this was considered the greatest comic book movie of all time. Now that opinion has kind of changed now with the Nolan Batman movies that came like a year later, and the MCU a few years after that. But there's a reason why at the time in 2004, nothing topped Spider-Man 2 on the list of the greatest superhero or comic book movie of all time.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, like we said before, great storytelling is great storytelling, and I think that this movie is a perfect example of that.
I mean, like, we went to this commentary, and even though one of our things when we started this podcast, Hiding Back 100, we don't want to do commentaries. Now, after 2, I really want to do 3 and 1 because I love these 3 movies.
I mean, it's a very, very solid movie. Is it the best Spider-Man movie? I don't know, because like it's kind of like,
I think it was, like, not counting Civil War because that's a Cap movie, obviously, and Spider-Man's only in Spider-Man's only like 10% of that movie, so obviously that one's not counted. I would say that Spider-Man 2 is my number 1. It goes Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, ASM 1, ASM 2, and 3.
For me, picking a favorite Spider-Man movie, it's too hard.
And it's weird because 3 and 2 are at the bottom, and it's not like because I hate those movies like the rest of the world. It's because, well, something had to be the bottom 2.
I mean, like, I love all the Spider-Man movies, so it's kind of hard for me to pick a favorite, but this is definitely a good one. So, if we do we have any other final thoughts on this film before we put this one to bed?
I mean, like, there's nothing else you can say about this movie.
All right.
Like I said, there's cheesy moments, but they make up with good storytelling.
All right. Well, That's going to do it for our Spider-Man 2 audio commentary. We thank you all for listening. That's also going to do it for our big 100th episode of the podcast. It's been a long one. I think we're going on 3 hours here, but
well, we just did a 2-hour movie, John. I think that's expected.
Yeah, it's like I expect that, but thank you for everyone who has tuned in. Thank you.
I got the audio commentary, and they got the name of the artist to tell you on the subtitles about what they're saying. And oh my God, it's hilarious. It just comes up Michael Bublé singing Spider-Man theme song.
But thank you for everyone who has tuned in for our big 100th episode. Thanks to everyone who has tuned in for any of the previous 100 episodes.
You misspelled Spider-Man. Ending, I guess the original Spider-Man theme song, like they misspelled it. There's no hyphen. It says theme of Spider-Man. With no hyphen, just a space.
That is sinful. But
everywhere else in the end credit, they got the hyphen. But I guess the song they didn't put the hyphen in.
But thank you to everyone who has tuned in for this 100th episode. Thank you for everyone who has tuned in for the previous 99 episodes. Once again, thank you, James, for...
Oh, another thing I'd like to just mention real quick, that's another thing I liked about these movies, is the fact that the last song they played in the credits was the 60s theme song. That's what I loved about the first movie, because I didn't sit in the theater to watch the whole end credit one time, because obviously this was before, end credit scenes, that you were just 12 years old, you wanted to get out after the movie. But later on when the DVD was out, I remember being sick in bed one day, and I was just like, I didn't feel good enough to even grab the remote after the movie, and so the credits played, and then I heard the 60 song played, and I'm not kidding, that actually kind of cheered me up a little bit, because I wasn't expecting, all of a sudden you hear Spider-Man, and you couldn't help but smile hearing the 60s theme song in the movie, and the end credits, like the actual song, not just somebody singing it.
All right, well, thank you, James, for being the longest running panelist of this podcast, a co-host, pretty much. Thank you.
You stopped calling me the panelist after episode 20 I'm on. You started calling me the co-host because I've been the only guy here that's been. No shot at the other guys. They're awesome, but I've been the only guy who's been here.
So thank you, James. Could not ask for a better co-host. Thank you to everyone else who's ever been on this show. And
what are we going to do in 2 years, John, when we reach 200?
What are we going to do in 2 years? That's 2 years away. I'll figure that out later.
He's going to come up to us and he's going to go, we're going to do Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2 commentary. John, we already did that with our review of the movie. I know, but I just want to do Dana Han voice again for another 30 hours.
All right, but so thank you all for tuning in. James, any final words or shout-outs for the listeners before we sign off?
I can't really think of way too many shout-outs. Shout-out to the airlines. I got my ticket for the convention coming up, so shout-out to that. Shout-out to my co-workers, awesome, work today, I guess. So I had a good day at work, so awesome. You guys to watch this, even though I know you're not, because I never mentioned this to my co-workers. Yeah, so that. I can't think of anything else that related to a shout out to this movie. Shout out to Tobey Maguire and everybody who was in this movie, and Sam Raimi.
All right.
Also, if we can mention the extended cover there, shout out to that deleted scene that should have been in the movie with Jonah cosplaying as Spider-Man.
Oh my God, that is the best scene ever.
That should have been in the movie. That should not have been in the extended cut.
All right, but my shout out this week: Marvel Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, Alfred Molina. Thank you for Spider-Man. Thank you for the movie we reviewed this week. Other shout out. My shout out is to the listeners and to everyone who has helped make 100 episodes possible. That is probably.
Also, I'll tell you after we go off there. So just continue your shout-outs.
I was just gonna say that's my biggest shout out. Other shout out. 4th of July was this past week, so shout out to America.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Shout out to America. Happy birthday, guys.
Yeah, 240. Yeah, I think we're doing pretty well. So
it's weird. You say 240, but relatively speaking, that makes us 5-year-olds to the rest of the world, pretty much. Maybe Canada. Canada's younger than us. So to Canada, it's yeah, we're 5-year-olds and they're 4-year-olds, but still, we're still really young to the rest of the world. when you go to like Japan and countries like that where they've been around for like 4,000 years.
And shout out to, I guess, just shout out to this podcast because 100 episodes is no small feat. So thank you all for tuning in. Just little, I guess, a little bit of a buzzkill, sorry, at the end of this episode, but there will not be an episode this coming week because I have stuff to do. But come back, not this coming week, but next week, the weekend of July 22nd, I think.
I think this is a safe thing to say now, but there will also not be the weekend of the 12th or the 15th. There won't be an episode because I'm going to be out at Marmoricon.
Yeah, that's like...
If I'm recording any podcast, it's going to be like an AGR reunion because we're at PMC.
So middle of August, but that's like a little...
But I just want to say that right now, so people, they're warned already that the next 2 months they're going to have some episodes with gaps.
Yeah, there will be a few gaps in the next 2 months, but next week there will not be an episode. But July 22nd, the weekend of July 22nd, yeah, we'll be back. So we'll hit up ASM Volume 4, number 15. By the time that week hits, we will also have another issue of the Civil War Amazing Spider-Man tie-ins. We'll hit that up as well. We'll hit up any news that comes out in the next 2 weeks. Thank you for everyone.
You know what's really sad? We read that comic book Wednesday, and I forgot all about it during the movie commentary. It's like, yeah, there's a comic book that I read this week that I have to review next week.
Yeah, but we'll hit all that up when we come back. So see you guys in probably 12, 13 days, hopefully. Thank you for thank you for 100 episodes, and yeah, we'll see you all later.
Jan sucks for no showing.